Hello, my people. Hello, 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 hello. Please share the live. Let's please share the live. Please share the live, my people. Hey, Ninjani, how are you? How are you? How are you? It's been a while. It's been a while since I had a live. Eh? Siyaphila. It's good to see you, my people. Ay! Suka, man! Tumelani. Madume. Botani, sanbonani. Ninjani bantwana begazi. Ah! Kuthiwa kuhle lendlela iyehlela. Kuthiwa kuhle lendlela iyehlela. Tholela umthwakazi. Kodwa labathwa. Sukandiambe. Hello, greetings everyone. Greetings everyone. Tabetsi kasas, tabetsi mukoni. My people, you know, ukombela, huopela. It comes from the word to dig, ukomba. The word to dig, ukomba. These songs, you know, There would be songs, they would be sang sometimes ceremonially when there's a healing, when the doctor is operating on a patient, and these songs will be sang to accelerate the healing process. So ukombela is literally a form of healing. It's a form of healing. This is why our people love singing so much. Sometimes they sing too much, everything, singing. It's in the blood because we align our mind, our bodies, our psyche with music. It should be something that is promoted in every aspect of our culture. I remember when I was at university, you would feel so dry, so lifeless, and we would jump at the opportunity of singing, even if it's struggle songs, but we would sing because we thirst for it. So I play music before I start talking about anything because it aligns my mind, it calms me down, and it just, as the music is playing, I can see clearly what the subject is about. Someone is asking what the subject is. Today's subject is the same as it's always been. Indigenous people need to wake up and take what is theirs. Today I'm going to talk about everything. Last time we spoke about the root of apartheid and colonialism. That it was not some random event that happened because the Portuguese had nothing to do and decided to come to Africa. Last time we spoke and I explained that when the Portuguese came to Africa, they were given the mandate by the Pope. So it's not just Portuguese who came, but it's Christians who came. It's Christians who came to Africa. It's not just white people. It's not just Arabs. It's not just Persians. It's Muslims. You need to understand that religion is the handmaiden of our domination by other groups. There is not a single group that came here without using its belief and political system, which is one and the same thing, really. All the groups that came, they came with a tool that they used, and that tool was operating from the position of being superior to anything we had. So I was explaining previously that when you saw the Portuguese coming here in the 1400s, when they came here, the Portuguese, they did not come because they were just, they didn't know what to do. The Pope gave the responsibility to come. Catholicism, Christianity, same thing. We're not going to play those dumb games here. It's the exact same thing. It is the exact same thing. And I'm going to block you because you're stupid. I'm not here to be your influencer. No, I'm not your influencer. So your opinions mean nothing to me. Let's continue. So my people, I'm going to continue on that subject because you guys need to understand that what we are dealing with is an international parasite. I repeat, what you see sucking your life, sucking your soul from that, bubbly, energetic, indigenous person you used to be, to this angry, forever troubled individual whose only existence is to pay tax. It's an international parasite. So if you think what's happening to South Africa, or what's happening in Sudan, or what's happening in the Congo is just one standalone thing, it's international and it's coordinated. You think the Cape independence lobbying is something that's standalone. You think the First Nationism and Aboriginal is just a standalone thing. It's the same thing. It comes from the same place. And I'm going to show it to you. But first, you must understand how things were. So when the Portuguese were given, through various papal bulls, as I had explained previously, the responsibility to come and conquer anyone and everyone. They called us pagans. Come and conquer us in perpetuity. Do you understand what perpetuity means? It means forever, without end. your children and their children and their children would be falling in the same system of slavery. That's why you cannot exist, Potani. You cannot exist in this system unless you are in a subservient position. You cannot work in this system as an indigenous being unless you are the one who's serving in the system. It's not the other way around. The system is not designed to serve you. You serve the system. So you will understand today how the Cape Independence, how First Nation Aboriginal people, the frauds who are always claiming, and the kings of this country, all of them fall in the same category. They are just tools. Recently, you had Uzweli Banzi going to so-called Israel. After that, you had the Khoi king going to so-called Israel. It's not just South Africa. There's many Aboriginal Australians who've been going there and other indigenous communities around the world. They've been coerced. They've been manipulated. They go there, oh no, there's no genocide. It's not about the genocide. It's not about anything. It's about, it sets a precedence for something bigger. And we're going to look at that. But first, you must understand what happened, how we got to where we are right now. Why are we slaves in our own land? How did we become slaves in our own land? And a lot of South Africans are under the impression that, oh no, things have always been like this. We South Africans were not slaves. We were never enslaved. You were enslaved. That's why you think KZN is your homeland. That's why you think Eastern Cape is your homeland. If you think Eastern Cape is your homeland because your grandfather was born there and you were born there, that's slave mindset, because that's not true. We are people who are moving around. We had cattle. We could not stay in one place forever. That's why the graves of our ancestors are in different locations. 500 years ago, my ancestors in the Drakensberg. 200 years later, my ancestors Ebatenjini. 100 years later, my ancestors in Anga. And then they keep on moving. That's how we are. We operate as a moving indigenous group of people in all the different groups that we are. We've never been in one place forever. So for you to even think that, oh no, Xhosa person, that means I'm from Eastern Cape, you are enslaved. That's why you think like that. You are a product of intergenerational slavery. And you need to accept it first and foremost. And stop this delusion of thinking, oh, in South Africa there was no slavery. There was slavery. In fact, it took more than 235 years. It took more than 235 years. There are still instances of slavery to this day in wine farms in South Africa. In wine farms, a lot of indigenous people are still slaves. But let's play some music and then we're gonna get to it. Please share the live, my people. Please share the live and we get to it. Molweni, dumelang, sanibona. Ngujambasa ke lona, ngumfene lona, ngumsuthu. Kuhlathela ingothiwa silelivutha lothiwa zimfene kuba imfene zibaninilo. Nguphala kuhle ngoba le ndlela iyehlela umabona abulawe ngathi ngumthakathi. Oyibeke etsheni ityiwe zimbovane. Kubhushulaze lona, ubhulashe, unsilane. Udlazana. Uluncu umwandla, umandla wafike luhlangene. Gusiduli ungube mhlophe. Sanzanze sanzonza kwavela umuntu. Ndingumfene ke mna ke mfene nezibelilanga. zalwa intombi yasemanzothweni konyeleni koomaphango konqale konqange nqanqasini kogxugxa koqhamu kowele liyobe phambili impunzi ngasemva kumtya nethunga kwekwasemanzothweni. Hoyini bafazi bentsikizi le ntsholo nayiphazama nithabatha isidoda ngoma lihlatyelwa isifazi. Kuntsiba nkulu kayuthu untaba kahili usiqa somelezwana zintshaba. Zukulwana ke mna ke emampehleni kocabasho nkomo zibomvu. Odikano lubisi into zakuloyibeka kwakulokani. Umzukuzuku kumagiqwa omvaba. Kwa mvaba iketi lumnqayile inqindi. Tsinga ikhwazwa ngabayaziyo ngonkosana nabo. Isisukuzuku ke mna ke kumatshawe. Otogu ongconde. Kuthiwa zigodwana zemazendala zingala endleleni yazini madoda kunyembelekile. Into zakulo ntsinga kaNomagwayi wesembo. Uzamazama ilizwe lizamazame. Usambatha zimfutshane kanti zomlingana kube izinto uthi zimfihla amadolo. Tsinga kaNomagwayi wasembo. Ndisisukuzuku mna ke kumangqosini. Kothithiba, kocoshe, kongxangana. Kondoko. Thikolo shephuma emhlangeni. Kuthiwa imbokodwe emnyama kathikolo sheqenqeleka isehla senyuka phezu komlambi igqili. Kugaba ke lowo, ngucihoshe ke lowo. Bantwana bahle, bhotani, welcome to the live, my people. I'm just starting. Someone was asking how do I do my lives? When will I be live again? Hey guys, we are live whenever it's time to be live. Just be around when I can't say I'm live this day or not. I'm live when I see the need, you know. When I see the need, I'm gonna be live. Today I saw the need, so I'm live. You see this gentleman here. This gentleman here, wakwanqasana. This is a qingqasixona. This is a qingqasixob. Umthwalona wakwanqasana. You can see he knows who he is. He's not claiming to be Aboriginal. He's not claiming to be First Nation. You know, the fraudsters, the First Nation gang who are committing fraud. One of them, the fake king, went to Israel recently. And this guy is literally Thomas. We know the Thomases, who are the descendants of Europeans. This is not a fraudster. This is not a self-appointed Khaub. You know, this is a real Kweku. This is a real Kweku. You know, so when we talk about this, we're not talking about things that we are imagining. We know these things because it's in the blood. It's in the blood. When we say singocanzi, when we say singohlangomva elweni, we descend from the cliffs downwards. Sitheuka ngobulembe entabeni sinqola ngemhluzi amanzi akhona sibheke isiphemphem neqhakuba ngenqawana. We are not claiming it. It's who we are. So this is a gentleman I thought I should share with you from KwaNxasana. There's another one from another group I know from KwaXhoma. Those ones, they know exactly who they are. They even, I think, they've revived even their indigenous chieftaincy now, KwaXhoma. So these are the actual Aboriginals. I don't know where brown Aboriginal is. Somebody call brown Aboriginal, man. Sometimes, guys, please call these people to come here. They don't join. They just make noise there. They don't join. They must come and join me. I don't want to digress, ne? But I thought maybe I should share this and open an invitation to these fraudsters so that we can expose them public and embarrass them. Hopefully, they will get some sense and stop lying. You see, these are Trump people. I see a lot of people talking about Trump. They don't even know what Trump is. We've told you that Trump people is Abatembo and related groups. These are actual Trump people, real life ones, not self-made, not self-proclaimed. We've repeatedly told you Trump people, not self-proclaimed, real ones. Even here in the Eastern Cape, we've got a clan known as Sukwini. Sukwini, we've said it. They are Trump people. Chwama. If you know Ubonga, the homeless guy, Bonga, that guy, the homeless one, Bonga. Look at this. Just look at this face. Tell me this is not Bonga's face. Bonga's face. Just look at this face. I see Bonga. And it makes sense because, come on, man. Someone's asking, are they not related to pygmies of the Congo? We are all related, all of us. Pygmies are indigenous people. They are indigenous people. They are not just in the Congo, they are in Cameroon. They are all related to all of us. They are related to people in South. They are related to people in East. Pygmies are indigenous. We are indigenous. So we have to be clear. We can't pinpoint which groups we want to associate with. Here's the thing now. I don't see the Aboriginals here. I don't see. Where are they in these pictures? When we talk about the real people of the land now. Us. Where are they? Now someone is asking, if we were to declare a 12th official language for Abatwa, what would it be? Well, Abatwa already have languages. They don't need a language to be declared for them. They already have. Languages like isiZulu and isiXhosa and Sesotho are literally born out of Abatwa. So they don't need it to be declared. It's there. It just needs to be recognized. You see, there's Qora. It's a language of Amaqora. So people like Ngosini, people like Bango. You see, the president of Botswana is from the Bango clan. He would fall under that language of Qora. Ngosini, one of my great-grandmothers, they are Kausin Kais within the Qora. In fact, one of their clan names is Jwaqula, which means out of the Qora. Jwaqura came out of the Qoras. So the language is already there. It's Qora Kobab for the Qora peoples. And then you have Nuki for the Amaqoma, which we have in the Eastern Cape as Amaqoma. In the Northern Cape is Omani. The language is already there. It's Nu. It's there. You've got Nama people. They have a language Nama Goab. Some of the people who are related to Nama in the Eastern Cape would be like Amagunukwebe, would be Amakwecha, So the languages are already there. All that's needed is to give them a place within the native and indigenous communities like Zulu, Xhosa, because here's the thing, when you talk about Zulu, when you talk about Xhosa, when you talk about Sotho, when you talk about Tswana, these are political structures. Within those political structures, you've got these diverse indigenous peoples that are organized under these political structures. So within AmaZulu, you have AmaZulu known as Amaqadi. Kwe. You have AmaZulu known as Amaqhi. Kwe. You have AmaZulu Amaqhube. You have AmaZulu, etc., etc. So it would not necessarily be a language that is specific to, Abatwa in contrast to AmaZulu. Because within AmaZulu, Abatwa are already there. They speak isiZulu. Abatwa speaks Sotho. Abatwa speaks Sepedi, etc., etc. But the languages that can be saved, like Kora Kobab, Namagoab or Kwe Goab, Nhuki, those languages, then we should save them. But not just those languages, even the languages that we speak today, like isiXhosa, isiZulu, those languages are dying, man. The truth is that they're dying. We don't speak what used to be spoken 200 years ago. We don't speak what used to be spoken 300 years ago. So even Xhosa, even Zulu, even Sotho or Tswana need to be saved and taken back to their true Kwe element. Because these languages they're a mixture of whatever. Like in isiXhosa today, there's things like itafile instead of uqweqwe. Itafile, what is itafile? And AmaZulu say itafula, itafula. There's no thing called itafula. It's uqweqwe. You understand? So we have to literally change. There's things called iviki or iveki, a week. We don't have a week. You just call it isqhenqe, the 7, because that's what it is. It's a cycle of 7. Isitulo, which is isihlalo or isithopho. So we need to save all these indigenous languages. They're dying. They're literally dying. Here's the thing now. You could drive from Limpopo to Cape Town. You're not going to see not even one road sign in an indigenous language. I'm not saying indigenous names, like road names. I'm saying the sign itself is in an indigenous language. So, for example, N1. N is a national route. We must have a way of notating these things in an indigenous language. You must go to the beach and see warning signs in an indigenous language. You must go to a museum and find guidance boards and signs in an indigenous language. You must see a matric final exam at the NSC Umalusi exam in an indigenous language. But no, you only see it in European colonial languages like English and Afrikaans. So isiZulu is dying. isiXhosa is dying. Setswana is dying. Sepedi is dying. And they're going to continue dying and dying and dying. Because what you do have, you've got fools in government. You've got fools in government. And these fools, they have no clue what they're doing. Remember, these people are a product. They're a product of Bantu education, man. How can people with Bantu education be able to lead? They were literally manufactured to be servants. And you think they're going to lead you? They are the perfect puppets of white supremacy. In fact, dare I say, the generation of our parents need to be completely removed from leadership altogether. All of them. They need to be removed. They are not capable of changing things. They are scared. They worship whiteness. They worship whiteness. All black people worship whiteness. They pray to it. They beg for its love. Oh no, we want a seat at the table. Mother sucker, what table are you talking about? We are reclaiming ourselves here. We are taking back who we are. You are busy asking for a seat at the table. Are you a fool? Are you a fool? And that's the thing, you know. That's the thing. We need to get to a point where we just cut them off and chuck them out. Someone was asking me, what is a wheel in indigenous languages? Oh, there's many names for a wheel. There's many names for a wheel. Many, many, many names. For example, there's the name Uqikilipoto. Uqikilipoto or Uqulukubede, which means turning round and round and round. No. If Vili is Afrikaans, it's literally Vili. Vili and wheel is the same word. It's not indigenous. The truth is that we've got different names. So wheels that are at the front, we call them umkhono. Wheels that are at the back, we call them umlenze. You see, that is based on position. But the wheel itself, because of its constant action of round and round, it's uqikilipoto or uqulubede. That's just one. There's many. Another one is umphambo. Umphambo is something that's spherical, curvaceous, you know. Like if you're holding a bucket, that thing, that round handle is also known as umphambo. You could use a word like ujikeleza. There's so many names. So many names. Atengos is asking why there are no traces of Amaxhosa in the Western Cape before 1652. Atengos, I'm going to ask you, when are the traces of Amaxhosa in the Western Cape? Since you know they are not there before 1652, according to you, when do the traces of Amaxhosa begin in the Western Cape? And what defines the Western Cape? What is the beginning and end of the Western Cape? If you can, I would like for you, Atongosi, to join so that I can talk to you directly. Please. Please. The wheel is isondo, umphambo, uqikilipoto, uqulukubede, ujikeleza. There's many names. It's like a ball. You know, a ball. Most people don't call it with an indigenous name, but ibola. Situkulogo, yes. A ball, they say ibola, but it's not ibola. It's imgukuva. It's imbumbulu. There's many different names. So these are not like strange things. These are not strange things. No, wheels have been there. Wheels have been there. Wheels were made of stones. Yes, ikakamba as well. It's also a ball. And also for us, we differentiate. If a ball is too small, it's called imbumbulu. If it's a bit stronger, bit bigger, it's ikakamba. There were many stones, like there were wheels made of stones, wheels made of wood. There's another one known as intenda. Intenda, it's a name for a wheel. I had forgotten about it. Intenda comes from the word to curve, ukutenda, to curve, ukutenda. For example, isitende, you know, sirete, it's curving. So intenda is another name for a wheel. I can think of 5 to 10 names, all for indigenous names for a wheel. The biggest problem is that our people lack knowledge. They lack knowledge about virtually anything. Literally, they lack knowledge about virtually anything, and they think their lack of knowledge reflects to everyone else. This is not a group project. If someone doesn't know, they must ask. And I like that question of the wheel. This person didn't come and say, oh, there's no wheel. No, wheels have been there. A bucket handle can be called that, but I don't have any instance in the past where it was called. It was generally called umphambo. Even a mug, when you're holding a mug, that handle was generally called umphambo. But a bucket handle can be called intenda because it generally refers to that curved, you know, that curved look or that curved appearance. So umphambo wembiza, yes, true, umphambo wembiza, that's exactly. So it's that curved round handle, even a wheel. In fact, we even differentiated between a tire and a wheel as well. The problem is that, let me actually show you this thing. People think I'm making this stuff up. I'm going to show you just now. You see this? Umpambo is anything circular and binding. It's a handle attached to both sides of a vessel. Umpambo wembiza, a port handle, a hoop for a cask, or a tire for a wheel. This is an indigenous name, not Ivili. Ivili is literally Afrikaans. It's the same as the English wheel, basically. It just means, guys, you must understand that we were conquered. We were conquered, and therefore we don't speak our language in the pure sense. We speak the colonizer's language. So you must never think that, because I grew up hearing this, it's correct. Our ancestors were literally stripped of their identity. 4 generations ago, 5 generations ago, they were stripped of their identity. There's a guy called Atengos. Atengos, you said there's no presence of a Maxhosa in the Western Cape before 1652. I asked you to join Atengos. Where are you? Come, talk to me. I'm ready for you. I do have a lot of indigenous dictionaries that I sell. I do have multiple Xhosa ones, multiple Zulu ones, multiple Kora, Gwinkia, Tsumkwe. I've got some books on Kham as well. Yeah. Exactly. We don't have the word itapile in isiXhosa. There's no tapile. There's no tapile for potatoes here. Potatoes is izambane. That's it. AmaXhosa, sometimes this obstinacy, this stubbornness is not helping. It's not helping. Itapile, we don't have it. It's art apple, which means the apple of the earth. Art apple. The apple of the earth, which means the ground apple. Literally the round thing that comes from the ground. Maskandi comes from Afrikaans. It's musikond. Skaftin comes from English. Skaftin, food container. Hubereka comes from Afrikaans. Werk. We don't have the word hubereka in our languages, including the later word mereko. They all come from Afrikaans. Werk. Umaskandi, we don't have it, Tina. We have umculo. That's it. Umculo. It's musikond. It's a musician, basically. We don't have iapula or iapile. It's a komol. It's a koni, yabo. Now there's a bathi amazamba nisizulu. No, amazamba nesisintu. Amazamba nesisintu. There's no tapile here in Xhosa. It's izambane. Just like there's no bokwe, it's imbuzi. It's imbuzi. If someone doesn't know this, that's their problem. It's not ours. Now, I grew up in a house that called a goat imbuzi. I speak isiXhosa, I don't speak isiZulu. But we call the goat imbuzi. It's not isibhaca, it's not isimpondo. I speak pure isiXhosa, proper isiXhosa, the one that's written in the books. Ndithetha sona ngqo esulungekileyo. Yeah, a lot of the dictionaries do explain how words were formed. But I also have many videos. I have many videos where I explain words. There's videos of mine that specifically deal with naming conventions. Where does the word bokwe come from? It comes from Dutch, bok. Spring, bok. It's the bok that jumps. Grace bok. Reebok. Val Reebok, Roy Reebok, all these words. It's a buck, it's a male goat. what we call impongo. What we call impongo in isintu. Etymologically, I can literally tell you they come from click forms, which means the tiny animal. That's why when we hlonipha, we say ncamazana. Ncama is the word inyama, a wild animal. Ncama is inyama. Zana is literally a diminutive. Ncamazana, little animal. No, a goat is incamazana. But not just a goat. Also, other small animals are called incamazana. Like a bird is also called incamazana. It's important to learn the origin of how these words come about, guys. I'll give you a few examples. You see, you've got words like ugagashe in isiZulu and ugambushe in isiXhosa. You've got words like ugagashe, ugambushe. Many people don't know, have a clue what these words mean or where they come from. Ugagashe come from the word ugaga. Ugaga is something hard, something strong, something hardened. Like when you're showing your ribs, sit uveze ugaga. You see, this is ugaga. So someone with a big chest, we can call them ugagashe. Someone with a big chest, ugagashe, because unogaga, a big ugaga. Ugambushe, gambu means red. It's an idiophone for the color red. Yes, ugagashe is basically uskora. Ugambushe is the red one. Usobomvu. That's what gambushe means, because gambu is an idiophone for redness. So we must be able, how is it, guys, that our people pride themselves in having never been enslaved, but have no idea. They have no idea what the words mean. They literally have no idea what their words mean. Thank you. Upumi is asking, what is unonganga? Well, think about the word ubunganga. Ubunganga is excellence, especially in terms of fighting. Someone who's an excellent fighter, we say unobunganga. They are really good in fighting. Ubunganga, therefore, that's what it is. Strength and dominion. So when someone says uzibizela unonganga, you're calling upon yourself a troublesome situation that you're not going to be able to handle. Uzibizela unonganga. Unonganga is literally someone who's dangerous for you. Unobunganga, you know. Nazok. Anyway, I don't want to be distracted, guys. I want to get to the point of today. The point of today, we need to be able to go back in time so that you guys can understand why today there's AfriForum, which has always been there, by the way. Why today there's Lex Libertas. Why today you have the Institute of Race Relations. Today you've got Cape Independence. All of them working together, by the way. Working together to poke holes in this stupid thing called democracy. Democracy. You need to go back. Nazok. But before that, I'm gonna ask you guys to just bear with me. I like to play some music first. But sometimes when I play these songs that have copyright, it's problematic when I want to upload to YouTube, because I have to now remove, the song and all that. But let me just play one more song that's gonna get us started. I'm gonna share the screen. You guys are gonna see everything. I wanna explain the slavery in South Africa. We're gonna go to the wars of resistance, but to get to the wars of resistance, we must get to how they got in here. I've dedicated at least 2 lives on this subject, particularly. of why. Why? But I need my people to understand Europeans who came here were not just Europeans, they were Christians. Please understand, when they came as Christians. So you were enslaved, raped, and pillaged by Christians. You were raped, pillaged, and enslaved by Muslims through De La Goa Bay in Mozambique. People talk about 1652. We've way past 1652. Europeans were here in the 1400s already. Forget about 1652. In the 1480s, they were already here. In 1486, they were in Expropriation. In the 1440s, they started in West Africa in the 1440s, and they came down. 1486, Expropriation. They literally left names, Portuguese names. You know, Natal, the place called Natal, is a Portuguese word, which means birth. It means birth. Natal, birth. Like postnatal care. After a person gave birth. It's Natal. It's Portuguese. Because there's this myth of the 25th of December being the birthday of Jesus. We know that's not true. It's just a myth. It's folklore. But yeah, it's Natal. It was named in the 1490s by Vasco. But before that, before Vasco in the 1480s, they named as Rio do Infantino, the river of Captain Infantino. The Portuguese left a trace. They did not just name places. They named even mountains. They named Cape Town. I'm gonna read for you. Don't worry. But I need to play this. I'm gonna play a song and then we can get started. Ne? Yeah. Oh Nangomo, Oh, Muranaka. If you wanna buy reading material, just inbox me. I will immediately after this live. I'll be with you. Kutan. Oh, itawuna nkomo, sawihlinza phi le nkomo. Siyaya kwamalume. I remember this song. When I was young. You know, thina sikhula sihamba inhlombe. I remember this song very well. Lithi sawihlinza phi le nkomo, siyaya kwamalume. Oh madoda. Kuthiwa tsiya. Zakhala izikhali zikaRharhabe. Unsinga kaNomagwayi wasembo usibala mdaka usambatha zimfutshane kanti zomlingana. Usinga siyaya mhla singaye singasiyi mhla sisiya. Tsi. Oh my daughter. Yeah, my people. I want you guys to be angry. I need you to be angry. You're not angry enough. Oh, mama. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, lo, oh, ah. Yeah, nazo. No, my people, you see, this is a lifelong project. This thing is a lifelong project. You will get exhausted along the way, man, because our people are disappointing. Our people are disappointing, but it's bigger than us, man. You need to stop thinking about people in the physical sense. It's bigger than that, yabo. It's bigger than that. So we have to continue pushing. Even if you feel tired, you feel like it's a waste, you feel like, our people don't deserve your fight for them. You're not fighting for them, you're fighting for your children. Oh, hi, man. Let me get started, my people. Let me get started. Your people are saying they're gonna vote for Groenewald. Hi, Groenewald for president. Groenewald for president. They deserve it. If they vote for Groenewald, let them vote. They will get what's coming. You see, my people, you need to stop being emotional about this thing. You need to stop being emotional. Let them vote for Groenewald. They will poop pineapples in full. That's what my elder sister always says. Now, nyama pine and bang. They must vote for him. Now they will get what's coming. I know, because now I've lived in an Afrikaner place. I've lived in an Afrikaner place, and I'm not talking long ago. I'm talking about 2 years ago, Baba. Akudlalwa. Azidlale ezazinja. Azidlale ezazinja. They have an agenda, and their agenda is intertwined with Israel and white supremacy. So if you think in South Africa, all of a sudden, the most racist white people on earth have had a change of heart and they want to work with these Bobochan, they call kafirs, who are black South Africans. Kafirs will always think like that white people are here to save them. That's what the kafir mindset is. It's not skin color, this thing. It's mindset. You are making yourself the white man's kafir. Go beg to be their kafir then, and you will be given what's coming your way. That's what black South Africans are trying to do. They are volunteering to be kafirs. Let them go. Let them go, man. I'm a kafir. They want to be kafirs. Let them stay kafirs. Nobody can help them. They don't need to be saved. They don't deserve to be saved. Let them go and be broken by white supremacists. Vote for Groenewald and be screwed from the back day in and day out. We're not going to beg you. Your stupidity is yours and yours alone. We're not going to beg you. Go vote for whiteness. But go and stay in their white places. Now, what I know, in a white supremacist system, the only place for a non-black, white, non-white, which means non-human in white supremacy, the only place where you belong, if you're not white, in a white supremacist system, is as a servant. Only as a servant. In apartheid, they made it clear. The black race are literally supposed to be just hewers of wood and fetchers of water. Your only reason for existence in a white supremacist society is to clean their garden, iron their clothes, fetch their water. Anyway, so in the 1450s, remember now, Pope Nicholas V had sent a couple of papal bulls allowing the Portuguese to go and conquer people in Africa and anywhere else. Pope Nicholas V sent a couple of papal bulls for the Portuguese to go and conquer Africa and enslave the populations. They started in West Africa in the Gold Coast. They took a couple of slaves in the 1440s in the Gold Coast of Africa, where you've got Ghana and Togo and Benin today. Took some slaves, sent them over to Portugal. Oh, wow, God is great. God has given us these new donkeys to use now. Black people were seen as pure property. I repeat, pure property, which means they are fully owned. They can be traded. They can be sold. They can be auctioned. Like you own today a piece of property. When you own a cow, when you own a goat, it was called chattel slavery. And it happened from East Africa to West Africa, from north to south. So when the Portuguese Christians came to Africa, they came to take the land. And there were a couple of Roman statutes that allowed them to do it freely. One of them was the Roman lie, fallacy of terra nullius, the empty land. They came, and because there were no white people, there were no white Christians, that means the land was empty. When Europeans say they did not find anyone here, they don't mean that there were no actual human beings, but they mean whoever was here, they don't recognize as a human. So when you say, oh, there were no Xhosa people in the Western Cape before 1652, no, Xhosa people were not humans in the white supremacist society before or after 1652. So it's not to say there were no people in the Western Cape or Cape Town. There were humans in South Africa everywhere, going back hundreds of thousands of years. There's evidence of people in the Hermanas area 15,000 years ago. What are you talking about? What is 1652? I'm talking about 15 bloody thousand years ago. There were already people here. Bukoni ruins. What do you call in Zalo Yelanga? It's hundreds of thousands years old. So there were always people here. But what they're saying is that you were non-human and you still are non-human to them. So they didn't recognize that you were here because you were never here according to them. To them, you were just a monkey that's moving around. And honestly speaking, the behavior of native South Africans has quite for a long time shown itself to be monkey behavior. Monkeys, maybe even monkeys are behaving smarter these days, eh? Maybe even monkeys are behaving smarter than black South Africans these days. I'm gonna say it like it is. If you're offended, go to hell because I don't give a damn. They rape, they pillage, they steal, they murder. Time and again, and you still want them to continue. Because you have no love for yourself. You think you can only function if you are ruled by them. Black South Africans will make up lies. Outright lies and say life was better under apartheid. But under apartheid, Black South Africans were not even South African. There's someone who just reported my live. Apparently, I'm saying hate speech in this live. Please comment some nice stuff there. Someone has reported my live. Bati, I'm doing hate speech. Which hate speech did I say now? If you're behaving like a monkey, you're behaving like a monkey. And I'm not going to go and sugarcoat it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Report again. I'm going to go another account and I'm going to say it again and again and again and again. I am not going to stop. What nonsense is this? You want us to come and sugarcoat nonsense here? You want to vote for Oom Groenewald because you think white supremacy is better than you existing? And they'll be like, oh no, black people never built stone settlements. My brother, what the hell are you talking about? We've got stone ruins in Eastern Cape. We've got stone ruins in Limpopo. We've got stone ruins in Gauteng. We've got stone ruins in Northwest. We've got stone ruins everywhere. In Mpumalanga, there's stone ruins that were built by us. What the hell are you talking about that we did not know how to build with stones? We built with bloody stone, man. But why would you build with stone when we are going to move again? Just right now, as I'm speaking to you, go to the Eastern Cape in the deep rural areas and see people building walls, indigenous stoned walls, without cement, to build izibaya and amatango. Walls, indigenous walls, like you see in Mapungubwe, like you see in Great Zimbabwe, like you see in Zata, like you see in Bukoni. We've built stone walls for a long time. We don't need their bloody cement for the walls to stand. The walls are standing and they're not falling. It's not Europeans who told us how to build with stone. Those stupid ideas that you keep on drinking because they're said by a white person, you seek white supervision. That's the truth of it. That's what it is. It's not because white people have done anything better. You just seek white approval. That's why you will spend days and days and days to always worship whiteness. Now go and worship whiteness elsewhere. Go and worship it elsewhere. It's not going to fly here. That nonsense is not going to fly here. So when the Portuguese bloody came here, they came as Christians who came to slaughter, who came to steal, who came to thieve. And they've been stealing and stealing and they continue stealing. What part of that is hate speech? What part of that is hate speech? If you can't think for yourself, then you are a toddler. These are the narratives of the apartheid government, Baba. A grown black man in the white supremacist, fascist, Nazi apartheid system, a grown black man was said to be equivalent to be a 12-year-old white boy. Why do you think white men called you boy, called your fathers boy in apartheid? Some of our fathers even have the name boy as a first name. Why would a grown man be called boy? Swart boy. Geel boy. Why were they called boy? Because in the white supremacist, Nazi, fascist, Christian nationalist apartheid system in South Africa, a black man was the equivalent of a 12-year-old white boy. 50-year-old black man, you were just a 12-year-old in the eyes of white men. A black woman was even lower, was probably maybe like a 10-year-old white boy or 8-year-old white girl in the system of white supremacy. So you think they called you boy when they called our ancestors boy when they were working in the garden and in the kitchen? Girl, garden boy and kitchen girl were absolutely in line with white supremacy, that you are not human. You are not developed enough to be human. You are only 60% Homo sapien according to them. And therefore, the land you occupy is not even yours because you are as good as a dog or a bird that's flying around. So they can take your land. This is what tells us about terra nullius. And they then said, a black man, no matter how grown you can be, you are always going to be a toddler or an adolescent to them. You can report the lies, but it's the truth. And I'll give a damn how hurt you are by this. Go and watch a dancing video. Go and watch a dancing video. Go and watch Tyler music. I don't know, Maporis or whatever. But if you stay here, you're going to hear these truths, like it or not. So when the Christians came, Christians meaning white supremacists. When I say Christians, I mean Nazis. When I say Christians, I mean fascists. When I say Christians, I mean apartheid perpetrators. When they came in the 1400s, they came to steal, they came to plunder, they came to rape, they came to dehumanize, and they came to perpetually enslave. They said it. It's not me who said it. If you don't like it, maybe go back in time and change the historical events. Mara, as it stands now, when Pope Nicholas V gave the mandate to the Portuguese, he gave them only one mandate: to go and perform psychopathic ethnic cleansing and genocide in this country and in the rest of Africa and the rest of the world for that matter. All indigenous populations have been subdued to subhuman conditions. And many have accepted those subhuman conditions. Some indigenous populations even seek whiteness. And we can see it manifesting here in South Africa. We can see it manifesting here in South Africa. Lindiwe Mazibuko. Phumzile van Dam. Musi Maimane. Soli Malatsi. Heck, even the so-called heroes of the struggle, many of them seek whiteness. ANC. Bloody A effing C. They seek whiteness every flipping day. Ramaphosa himself. Has anyone met any other family with the surname Ramaphosa for that matter? How many families use the surname Ramaphosa? Besides his immediate family. Julius, the Jew, the Lambert Jew. My daughter. So now, when the Portuguese came, they left evidence, For example, they named the Mtata River. They called it, at some point, Rio do Sao Tome. They called it Rio do Sao Tome, the river of St. Thomas. The reason why they call it the river of St. Thomas is because in the 1500s, there was a Portuguese ship called the Sao Tome ship that was shipwrecked in the Eastern Cape along Mthat. But also they called Utugela. They call it the Rio do Santa Lucia. Rio do Sao Lucia. That is Utugela. The Portuguese called it Rio do Sao Lucia, which means the river of Saint Lucia. That's why you have Lake Saint Lucia or La Lucia. And then to this day, Eastern Cape, you still have the place called Port St. John's. It's clearly named after John the Saint. After John the Saint. In fact, the Limpopo River was called by the Portuguese Rio do Boa Gente, the river of the good people. In fact, Limpopo itself was called Terra do Boa Gente, the land of the good people. That's what they called Limpopo. At some point, they also called the area in Delagoa Bay, they call it Terra dos Fumos, the land of the chiefs. Terra do Natal is what we call Natal today. And there's many others. I don't want to waste time, but I was just trying to show you how they left their footprint, They left their footprint here. For example, Umhlatuze in KZN, they called it Rio das Pescarias, the river of the fishermen. Rio das Pescarias. It was called Rio das Pescarias by the Portuguese because our people were fishing there in the Umhlatuze River. Today, you will get nonsense. You will get nonsensical, fallacious sophistry, stupid arguments that, oh no, the black people don't have a fishing culture, so that the whites can take all the fishing licenses and sell off our fish. Why did the Portuguese call Umhlatuze Rio das Pescarias, which means the river of the fishermen, if the people of KZN were not fishing in those days? They went and called the Limpopo River Rio de Cobre, the river of copper, because the people were wearing copper in the 1400s and the 1500s already. This is not 1652. This is before 1652. So if you're going to talk about the history of South Africa and you're going to reference 1652, you're still a toddler. Go back and learn your facts. In fact, I've said it. The very name Limpopo is a Nguni name. People don't get it. You know, in Xitsonga, it's Mugumbene Mele. Mugumbene Mele in Xitsonga. The very name Limpopo is Nguni. From Impopoma, the waterfall, the river with the waterfall, the flowing river. From Impopoma, you have Limpopo. And the name Limpopo is aligned with other names. With other names like Ligwa, Lipalale, Lusuthu. The river Lusuthu, you know, Lusuthu is a river. In the river Limpopo is Mugumbene Mele in Xitsonga and it's Vembe in Chivenda. Limpopo is not Tsonga. It's not Venda. It's Nguni. Heck, people actually say it's originally from the Amandebele. That's where the name comes from. So, these are all the names, by the way, that came from the Portuguese. And I'm showing you that these names started from all the way from the west coast of Cape Town to Limpopo. They called the river Limpopo Rio de Cobre or Rio de Obro. They called the region of Delagoa Bay Terra dos Fumos, the land of the chiefs, Mufumo, chief. They called Natal Terra dos Natal. Because the Portuguese were here in the 1400s. Who sent them? Who gave them the power to come and fare our seas? It was Pope Nicholas V. Papa Nicolo V, they called him that. Papa Nicolo V. In fact, because of the Portuguese, why were they coming here? Remember now, they were also trying to go and enslave. I have the book Life of 1652. There it is on my shelf. I've actually met the author. I do talk to the author. Why were the Portuguese here? Well, to conquer and take the land and enslave the people. However, also, they were going to Asia, you know. They were going to Asia, in Batavia. They were going to Indonesia, India, Pakistan, Malaysia. In fact, between 1497 and 1650, before 1652, guys, please hear me very well. Between 1497 and 1650, Jan van der Beek has not arrived yet. There were already more than 1,000 ships that left Lisbon to come to India. More than 1,000 ships. More than 1,000 ships. They went from Lisbon and they departed for the Carreira da India. That is called the India Run. When they came here, the crazy thing is that they got shipwrecked a lot of the times. That's why they called Cape the Cape of Storms. They got shipwrecked. The first European settlement in India was in a place known as Cochin. It's Kochi. In Kerala, in India. It was established after they passed through South Africa by Vasco da Gama. After he came and named all these places, he went to India to start a settlement, a colony. So when they were passing here, they were going to start a colony in India. Tell you what, they built a fort in India in 1503. 1503, they built a fort. marking the beginning of colonial presence. There was no Suez Canal in those days. Remember, Suez Canal is man-made. Between Egypt and Israel, or Palestine, or whatever you call it, there was land. Though that land is connected. There was no canal, so you couldn't pass there. And then you couldn't really pass through the Nile River as well. But the Nile River ends in Central Africa. It ends in Uganda. And you can't really go against the current of the river. Remember, rivers flow from high altitude to low altitude towards the sea. So if you're going to enter from the sea to the Nile River, you're going up. It doesn't work like that. Doesn't work like that. So anyway, they started the first slave post in India. Why am I mentioning this? Because in the 1500s, in 1552, 100 years before Jan van Riebeeck comes here, in 1552, there was already a shipwreck in what is called Port Edward today, in the border of Eastern Cape and KZN. Guys, are you listening? In the border of Eastern Cape and KZN, there was a ship known as Sao Joao, which means Saint John. Sao Joao, it was wrecked around June, July, in 1552, in July. This is 100 years before the so-called Jan van Riebeeck. The Portuguese had been here since the 1400s. So in 1552, they get shipwrecked in the border of KZN and Eastern Cape. Guess who was there in that ship? There were 500 people in that ship, guys. I'm trying to get to a point. There were 500 people in that ship. The ship was destroyed. No, there were not 500 people. There were not 500 people. Let me see if I have the numbers of how many people there were. I don't know how many people there were, but 500 people survived. Of those 500 people who survived, 300 were slaves. From India, from Malaysia, from Pakistan. Do you understand what I'm saying? Indians did not arrive in the 1800s. They arrived with Portuguese ships in the 1550s. By the 1550s, we've been here for thousands of years because we were always here. We literally began here. So in 1552, when the ship called Sao Joao got shipwrecked in Port Edward, 500 people survived, 300 of them were slaves from Asia. Where do you think those slaves went? Some of them became Zulu, became Mpondo. In fact, within Amampondo, you have people known as Amamolo, the Maroons. They came from those slaves, many of them. You have people known as Abelungu. They came from those Portuguese. Those Portuguese stayed. They became Amampondo. They became Abantu Bakwamachi. Please don't get me wrong. Those people were already there. They just joined. They just joined those nations. Some of them joined Amazulu. Some of them joined Amandwando, etc., 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 and became part of the communities. Others went up to Delagoa Bay. They walked from Port Edward to Delagoa Bay. And guess what? They recorded the people they found. This is in 1552. Guys, there's already nations that are already established. They've got laws. They've got customs. They've got fishing. They were already there in the 1400s. So where is this nonsense of people who arrived? The Maroons, some of them were Moors, yes. Some of the Maroons were Moors. Now remember, these are people who were captured. They would be captured in the sea. They would be captured, maybe when there's an attempt for piracy. When the pirates are trying to take over, they would fight, they would capture them. So the Maroons were mixed with the Asian slaves, and they came to South Africa. When the ship got dragged in 1552, they were called Amamolo, the Maroons, the Moors. Today, they are a clan of Amampondo. The Portuguese became known as Abelungu. To this day, the Abelungu clan, they know the names of their ancestors. They know them, they know their names, and they will tell you exactly. And this is in the 1500s. So those people were here 100 years before Jan van Riebeeck. Nobody talks about that because people are interested in the narrative of Europeans. Your First Nation, Aboriginal, make-believe, Poppy-ace people, they don't talk about those things because it doesn't serve their interest. It doesn't serve the interest of Israel. Abelungu and abantu abalungileyo is two different things, most. When you say Abelungu, it has nothing to do with ukulunga. Firstly, ukulunga, the word lunga, means to be straight. If you are taking a stick and you're straightening it, yayilungisa. That's what lunga means. It doesn't mean good or bad. It means straight. But lungu means a spirit, an unsettled being, a being that is all over the place because they were traders. They were moving around, moving back and forth. No, Abelungu is not the foam. It's a wandering being. It's a boogeyman. Something you use to, scare the children. Demons, basically. Ubulungu, the foam from the rivers or the beach, is not the same as Abelungu. The word Abelungu is not just a South African word. It's been there. It's there in Central Africa. It's there in East Africa. It could not have come from us. It's a word that's always been there. It's not just for Europeans. Even Arabs, konke nje kuyafana ngabelungu, they're demons. Yes, Bazungu. Zungu means around and around and around. For example, when you are dizzy, you say, unesizunguzane. Isizungu, to dizziness, because it's people who are wandering, who are moving round and round and round. So wazungu, abelungu, varungu, it's the same thing. The unsettled beings. The unsettled beings. So the real meaning of the name Abelungu, it simply means those who go around and round and round and round. From the word lungu, ukulunguza, or zungu, this is zunguzane. Lechua simply means a foreigner. Lechua means the ones who are not from us, the outsiders from us. The problem is that these words now, we have specified them to only mean one thing. It's like the word ukukumsha. Kumsha. It's not just to speak English, it's to speak any foreign language. We are kumsha. You speak something that people can't understand. Anyway, guys, let me go back. So when the Portuguese, they had a shipwreck in the 1500s. 1552, that is their first shipwreck. This is 100 years before Jan van Riebeeck. Why am I mentioning this? To give you a context that this lie of 1652 will not hold. This lie of 1652 will not hold. These people had already been here long before that. Long before that. And they came most of the time as people who had been wrecked on the sea. They had nothing. In fact, these people who were shipwrecked in Port Edward, they wrote in their books that they met with people in KZN. And these people, they mentioned a couple of words they had, like the word inkosi, like the word nanaza. Now, nanaza is a word that means to trade. Ukunanaza, to trade. In isiXhosa, it's ukwanana, to barter. If I have like beads and you've got copper and we can exchange, that is called ukwanana, to barter. So when these Portuguese came from the sea, the Zulu people that they met, or the Maqi people, abantu bakwaMaqi that they met, they used words like that, like ukunanaza. I will see if I have the link to to the story that talks about this. I will see. So that you guys can see what I know what I'm talking about. But this is not just the only shipwreck. The reason why I'm mentioning this shipwreck, it's fine, Tlat. It's fine, I understand. The reason why I'm mentioning this shipwreck is because there's this narrative that the history with Europeans begins in 1652, when it had been there for way longer. In fact, even the Greeks in the 1st century BCE or the 1st century AD had mentioned parts of Southern Africa like Mozambique as the coast of Azania, which, and Azania we know starts from Eritrea to northern Mozambique. It's a coastal area. That's why to this day in Somalia you've got a province of Azania, Al-Azanj or Al-Zanje, the wild slaves. So now, you already know that the whole thing of 1652 is nonsense. It's a lie. It's not true. These people had been coming back and forth since the Greeks, Since the Greeks. No, guys. Europeans. Remember, the name Abelungu was not just for Europeans. I want to repeat this. The name Abelungu was used for Arabs. The Arabs were trading with us, remember, since the 1000 AD. They were trading with us in Mapungubwe. The Indians were trading with us in Mapungubwe. The Bedouins, the Moors were here. Even in Great Zimbabwe, they were here in the 1400s. So the word Mlungu did not start with Europeans. We were using it when we were trading with, those nations from about 1000 AD to about 1400 AD in Mapungubwe, and then Great Zimbabwe, and then Manyiken, and then the Tembe Empire, through to the Zulu and Xhosa coastal societies. So we were trading with these people. They came here for gold. They came here for ivory. They came here for leather and other things. This is why they went inland, because they knew, because they can see the copper most in the people's bodies. They can see the copper and some of the golden necklaces. Some of the golden necklaces. So they're like, oh no, there's gold here. So they they stayed for a long time. If you read the book on Mwene Mutap, it explains the different people who were there. China, Greeks, Arabs, Yemeni, Omani merchants, Kushites, all these different groups. Gold was used most as a store of value. It was used as a store of value. It was used as a currency because it has value. It was used for ornamental purposes, kings. It was used to make cups for kings, ornaments, necklaces, thrones. The same thing that we use gold for today. It was used for the exact same thing. And also you had alchemists who tried to find the sorcerer's stone, trying to live forever. So they would be manipulating different elements. Trying to find a way to live forever. In fact, Isaac Newton is one of those religious fanatics who wanted to live forever. And people know him as a mathematician. But he was an alchemist in a way, a religious fanatic. Someone is like, alchemy is not a real science. Yeah, that has nothing to do with me though, or this life. So that's absolutely irrelevant. Anyway, 1552, that's when the shipwreck happened. And then in 1554, there was another shipwreck. This one happened in Eastern Cape now. In Umsikaba, in the Msikaba Island. This is 1554. 98 years before the so-called Jan van Riebeeck. In Umsikaba, this ship was called the Sao Bento. The Sao Bento. 1554. After that one, we had another shipwreck in KZN in 1585. All of these ships were by Portuguese. This one was called the Santiago. In 1589, there was another shipwreck, the Sao Tome, in the area of Umtata. And then another shipwreck, Ekonge, in what today we will call Sunrise on Sea Beach, just north of Umqunube and south of Ikweleja. Ekonge, there was a shipwreck of the Portuguese. This was called the Santo Alberto, 1593. The Portuguese were shipwrecked here, Ekonge, in the beach known as Sunrise on Sea, just above Umqunube and below Ikweleja. This shipwreck now, there was a white boy, a Portuguese boy, who survived and stayed in that ship. No, it's not this one. It could not have been this one. It was, I think, another. It was Stavenice. I think it was Stavenice, that Portuguese boy who survived. He survived and stayed and was then collected by Europeans later and taken to the Cape Colony. There was a European boy who was raised by the Xhosa people. So they knew we were not monkeys when it meant saving them. When it meant saving their lives. They knew we were not monkeys. They've written all of the accounts of how they were treated in these shipwrecks. And I've listed about 5 shipwrecks in the Eastern Cape and KZN in the 1500s only. From 1552 to 1593. Yeah, no, the boy was French. And it was a completely different time. It was not the 1500s. It was in the 1600s. So that's a mistake. So I've listed 5 shipwrecks that happened in Eastern Cape and KZN. There was another shipwreck in the 1600s. This one was the João Baptista. But also in the Western Cape, there were other ships before 1652. For example, in Blouberg. In Blouberg, there was a ship known as the Mauritius Island in 1644. In 1644, this shipwreck happened in Mully Point in the Western Cape. This is before Jan van Riebeeck, remember. 1644, there's a shipwreck in Mully Point. Those Europeans stayed there. Also, in 1647, the Nieuwe Haarlem in Blouberg, Dolphin Beach. The Nieuwe Haarlem in Dolphin Beach. These 2 ships, the Mauritius Island and Nieuwe Haarlem, happened in 1644 and 1647 respectively. Stayed for a combined 1 year, 3 months. So who came with this nonsense that Jan van Riebeeck was the first European here, when we know Europeans had been here at least consistently since the 1400s, but even earlier than that. Europeans were here even earlier. The Greeks wrote about these places. In fact, in the Roman Empire, North Africa, there was a continent, a province called Africa, which was North Africa. There was literally a province of the Roman Empire called Africa. What the hell are you telling me? Oh, it's 1652. You are so obsessed with European narratives that you'd rather ignore all other verifiable historical events and historical records just so that the Boers can agree with you. That is what our people, they thirst to be validated by Boers. It's Mauritius Island. The ship is Mauritius Island. It arrived at the Cape on the 16th of February, 1654. It was wrecked in Mully Point. Mully Point is just before you get to Sea Point. From Granga Bay in waterfront, you drive to Mully Point and then to Sea Point. Or from Green Point, you get to Mully Point and then Sea Point. They are all on the Atlantic seaboard. Now, tell me why the government is not teaching about this in schools. The government of the people. Oh, the struggle heroes. The struggle heroes. Oh, they fought for our freedom. What freedom when they're teaching people about nonsense? And guys, let me tell you something. No? Let me tell you something. ANC, DA, they are all the same. They are together most now. Akiri, they're together in the GNU. The government of the national unit. It's them, they're doing it together. Anyway, there were also English ships that got wrecked as well. For example, the Grosvenor. The Grosvenor was an East India man. You know, it got shipwrecked in the 1700s. But today I'm not interested in 1700s. I'm more interested in before 1652. Just to show you that there's more than enough evidence. More than enough evidence, that European presence has nothing to do with 1652. From the Greeks, and the Middle Easterners, the traders from Oman, traders from Yemen, and East African traders, your Macrobian, your Eritreans, your Azanians, which is obviously a bad name. It comes from the name Senzi, wildlings, Basenzi, wildlings. Now, possibly the Phoenicians as well, because the Phoenicians were literally the most renowned, seafarers since the BC era, before Common Era. The Phoenicians were some of the most renowned seafarers. Now, when the Portuguese started, the Spanish Inquisition in Spain and Portugal, when the Spanish Inquisition started in the 1490s, they took all those seafarers, the Carthaginians, the Phoenicians, the Moors, they sent them to Africa, some of them to the Congo, some of them to Angola, some of them to the Sao Tome Islands. You see? Some of them they took as maroons to travel with them around. And this is how now the blood and the seeds and the gene pool gets diversified. But still in the 1400s, I wanted to explain then those shipwrecks that happened from 1552 to 1647. Those shipwrecks, those ships were not empty. Those ships were not empty at all. A lot of them had slaves, and most of the time it was more slaves than the Europeans. Now, those slaves, I can promise you, and many of them stayed in those areas where they were shipwrecked and joined the local clans. So, even the prophecies that you are told about, that there was a prophecy in the 1700s, there was a prophecy that there's a European group that's going to come and take over. We must only take the book, but we must not take the coin. I'm sorry, but that's a lie. I'm going to be very honest with you. That is a lie. Because Europeans had been here 300 years before that prophecy. And you cannot say that the book is good, but the coin is not good, when the book is literally printed because someone paid the coin. When the book itself literally talks about people offering the coin in that book itself. So that's a lie. I'm sorry. Even if it's your favorite history, that, oh no, we had prophets. The prophets told us to take only the book and not the coins. That was a lie. There was no prophecy such as that. I'm sorry, but that prophecy was not there. It did not happen. This is what we call propaganda. Do you understand that for the book to even exist, it had to be bought with coins? In that book itself, there's offerings that are being mentioned. Coin offerings, literally, it says coins. So why are you being gullible to believe this nonsense? They want you to stay a fanatic, but not participate in the economy. We were participating in the global economy before Europeans even knew that Africa existed. And by Europeans, I mean the tribes. The Romans probably, they knew already, and the Greeks. But the other tribes, because the Romans and the Greeks, a lot of them studied here anyway. A lot of them studied here, so they knew. They were students of Africa. The other tribes, your barbarians, your Bulgars and your Huns, your Goths and your Visigoths, your Frank and the Lombardis, they didn't know nothing about Africa. All they knew was to kill each other, the European tribes. They were murdering each other. They didn't play those ones. Go and read up on the European tribes. We were trading with the world when they were busy murdering each other, pillaging and raping. when they were busy burning women for witchcraft, when they were busy murdering cats for witchcraft, we're trading. We're trading with Bedouins, we're trading with Moors, we're trading with Arabs, we're trading with China, we're trading with Asia, India. Now, let's go to 1652. Did you know? Did we ever go out to sea? As in, like, go to other countries? I don't have any collection of that in our history. I don't have any collection of us going to the sea to other countries. But did we go and explore the sea? Absolutely. That's why we know fish, like salt seawater fish. We can differentiate between fish that are found in salt water and in fresh water. No, we did explore the sea. We definitely explored the sea. We literally built next to the sea. But I don't think we went to other nations. At least not in modern times. By our own industry, by our own inkutalo. You know, industry is inkutalo. When you talk about industry, you're talking about inkutalo. Ukukutala, that's industry. I don't think, at least in the history that I know, in the 1400s. I'm not sure, but before that, most likely, because I mean, we've got names for big ships, for example, Inqanawa, Imikhumbi, and small ones as well, and surfing boards like Izihlenge. We've got names for these things. So there were communities within us who were deep sea people. Others were deep river people, you see. Others were divers. Others were, fishermen, all sorts. Doesn't mean everyone. That's another thing. When we talk about people think it's not everyone. Certain groups specialized in certain things. Other groups specialize in other things. But now, to understand the true history of our land, you do need to go back in time, like for real. But anyway, the Portuguese became weak for many things that were happening in Portugal. They became weak, they withdrew their presence. As the Dutch are starting to increase their presence, before 1652, the Dutch had been coming here for a long time. They did take some of our people in their expeditions. They did take some of our people overseas. It's true, it did happen. Some of our people did go overseas, with Europeans even. Some with Asians even. Our people had been in the oceans. Now, I specified, did we have that industry? Like, that was specifically dealing with that? I'm not sure. At least from 1400 to now. But from before that, I said most likely. One of the instances where one of our people was taken happened in Cape Town. A man called Harry in Kwegwab, Heli in isiXhosa. His nickname was Xau Tsama Xau. Xau Tsama Xau or Xau Tsumau. The one who swims with fish. Xau is fish, mos. Xobi is a fish. Intlambi or intlanzi. Fish. Xobi. Or Xoba. Xau Tsama Xau. The man who swims with fish. They took him to Batavia, to their colony in Asia. So our people had spoken even Afrikaans and Dutch, and probably other languages, other words from Asian languages as well, as because of the trade. And the same would have happened in those languages as well. We would have transferred some of our words in those languages. For example, maybe if you think about words for things like what is this thing now? Ivory, things like gold and all that, we would have influenced them in terms of those names. Now, before I continue with the Dutch, because it's important that you understand how they expropriated The Dutch are the ones who came with the system of expropriation. They came with expropriation. They expropriated people without compensation. They expropriated land without compensation. They expropriated labor without compensation. Three things. They expropriated people, land, and labor, all without compensation. Both the Dutch and the English. Today, their children act as if they don't know. They know. Oh no, it was not us, guys. But when you talk about the stuff that Europeans did that are commendable. Oh no, the Europeans built phones. Europeans built this. Europeans built that. They built it using slaves. But oh no, we didn't enslave people, guys. We didn't enslave people, but we built the world. No, you enslaved people. Stop being a victim here. You're not the victim. You're the transgressor. You're the one who committed the sin, and you must pay for that bloody sin. So, someone asked the name for gold. I had explained that there were many names for gold. Imbo is one of those names. Imbo, there's a saying, Imbo is a golden stone. I had explained the word ubenga. Benga is literally a name for gold. Then the word benga means shiny, by the way. Yeah, bengezela, it's shiny. It's a name for gold. Imbo, ubenga, ichezi. It's also a name for gold. Something golden is called ichezi. So yeah, there's many other names, man. These names, they come from the appearance or the action through which gold is acquired. Like for example, you have ukutapa is to extract a mineral. When you tapa, you extract a mineral. That's why you have mutapa, the mining and the extraction of minerals, including gold. If you want to know more about this, Imbo and gold, go to my YouTube channel. I had already made, there's an 8-hour video. There's an 8-hour video, part 1 and part 2, that talks about Imbo and Ambo. We go deep into gold there. We go through the Golden Meridian, all the civilizations along the one longitudinal line. The civilizations of gold mining from Eastern Cape to KZN, to Limpopo, to Mpumalanga, all the way to Mozambique, Zimbabwe, all the way to the Nile. We do an in-depth deep dive for 8 hours. So if you want to know about gold, when I know about Ambo, go and watch that one. So now what you have is the Dutch. They come in. The Dutch had been coming, obviously, way before 1652. Those two ships that I mentioned, that stayed here for a combined 15 months. Those ships that stayed for a combined 15 months were Dutch ships. The Mauritius Island and the Nieuwe Haarlem. The Mauritius Island and the Nieuwe Haarlem were both Dutch ships, and they were here before 1652. That's to show you that they were always, coming in and all that. Because remember, the Dutch had colonized, Asia as well, Indonesia and all that. That's why to this day, if you go to Indonesia, you'll find a lot of Dutch words, you see. Yes, they stayed for more than a year, 13 months. So you should know then that nonsense that the Dutch arrived in 1652 doesn't hold at all. What you do have then is Mauritius Island and Nieuwe Haarlem, the New Haarlem. That's what it is. The Nieuwe Haarlem, the New Haarlem. Those who want to go and watch Ambo, just go to my channel, guys. This thing of technology, you must go to my channel. There on my channel, you just search for Ambo. It's there in the title. I will show you now. This is distracting now. I need to stick to the topic, but I will show you what you need to do. This is my YouTube channel, guys. Sandle Tugani. Here on the YouTube channel, you go to home. You see? Take this link, YouTube /videos. You come here to videos, you search, you write Embo. You do this, you search. What you will get a 4-hour video with 46 minutes. You get a 4-hour video with 46 minutes. It talks about Embo, the Golden Meridian, Abambo, connected to Kemet, Deep Dive, Part 1. It's got 1,000 views. And then there's another one, Part 2. It's 2 hours, 52 minutes. Embo, Kemet, Origins of the Gods, Part 2. It's got 667 views. These two videos combined, it's 4 hours. It's 2 hours, that's 6. It's 7 hours in total. These videos thoroughly discuss the whole thing of gold, gold mining, the history of gold, the significance of gold in our cultures, and what is Embo, where is Embo, who are Abambo. Please go and watch, because I don't have 7 hours right now to explain this. I took all the time to explain it, and I need you guys to go and watch. In terms of the shipwrecks, these are all the shipwrecks that happened, the ones I mentioned. We start with Galleon Sao Joao, 1552, border of Eastern Cape and KZN. 500 souls survived, but 300 of them were slaves. And then we have Sao Bento, 1554, in Msikaba Island, Eastern Cape. This is another Portuguese shipwreck. After that, we've got Santiago, 1585, KZN, Portuguese shipwreck. After that, we've got Sao Tome, 1589, Portuguese shipwreck. And then lastly, I mentioned the Santo Alberto in 1593. This one happened in Once, Sunrise on Sea Beach, north of Umqunube and south of Ikwelech. Then I also mentioned the Dutch ships. I also mentioned this one, Sao João Baptista in 1622. Then I mentioned some Dutch shipwrecks. These ones you have ship Mauritius Island, 1644 in Mully Point. And then we've got ship Nieuwe Haarlem, 1647 in Dolphin Beach, Blauberg today, on the Atlantic, on the Table Bay, Atlantic Ocean. And then I also touched a bit on the Stavanese Island, Stavanese shipwreck, and on the Grosvenor shipwreck. So there's many others, but these ones are significant because we've got written records of exactly how it happened and why it happened. I touched briefly on the French boy. On the French boy that lived with Amaxhosa. This one, Hilaum Chenou de Chazelard, is a French boy. So please go and come to the channel. You know, when you use YouTube, there's an option to search for things here. So you can just search for the keyword, and then videos that discuss this are generally gonna come. Or you can just come to the videos. The videos are not that many, guys. You see, abantu abathwa nabantu barwa kibatu. These are all the videos, and they explain in detail a lot of these things. See, this is the last long one I posted. Timekeeping. It talks about timekeeping. It talks about goldsmithing. It talks about iziganeko, which is historical events that we use to keep time. I talk about Amalala. I talk about Amatonga in this one. And then there's another one here for 3 hours. We're going crazy. Go and watch. Then I talk about land expropriation. These videos, this one, and this one, and the live we are doing right now, they are all connected. So you can't learn in isolation. All of these things work together. I talk about First Nation. I talk about phenotype. I talk about genotype. Any question you're going to ask me about First Nation, I've already answered it. I have no doubt about that. You see this series here, Queer People East of South Africa, 5. This is part 5. This is part 4. This is part 3. This is part 2. This is part 1. It's literally, on average, these videos are 2 hours. And I made 5 of them. So that's a good 12 to 14 hours of content dealing with this thing of Kwe and Khoisan. So I can't answer these things again when I've made 15 hours worth of content answering. Please go to the channel. Don't rush to know these things. You will be manipulated and lied to. These things need patience. You need to take the time. So that the next time you see a video on TikTok that says Bantu came from West Africa, you don't almost have a heart attack because of that stupidity. You know that it's nonsense. You know that it's nonsense, you know? But you guys, you are afraid to be patient. You must be patient. You know? Don't rush to know what you don't know. You will know it with patience. It needs patience. Take your time to learn. So watch the videos. I can promise you the videos have all the answers. They have all the answers that you can need. Now, back to the subject. My people, land expropriation is not new. And I'm saying this because it's one of the main reasons why America is losing their mind together with Israel. Together with the Israel case, right? But land expropriation is not an ANC thing. It's what the Dutch did when they arrived. They expropriated land here in South Africa and elsewhere where they have a footprint. They got there and they expropriated land. Now, I tried to create some kind of, presentation on this thing. So, I'm going to show you something now. I'm going to share on my screen the native peoples. And you will see exactly how they did it. Now, between 1652 and the 1800s, the Dutch are running the show in South Africa. They are running the show, right? They come and they establish something called the Cape Colony. The Cape Colony, it starts in a small settlement called Cape Town. It starts in a small settlement called Cape Town. But when the Dutch arrive in Cape Town, they find people already. Now, Cape Town is only a small portion of the Western Cape. It's not big. Cape Town is very small. It's literally at the foot of the mountain. Western Cape is massive. So the Dutch start by taking Cape Town. As they take Cape Town, they needed to obviously remove the people that were there. Now the Dutch didn't have cows, they didn't have sheep, they didn't have anything. And it's not just the Dutch. You had the Germans, you had English, you had some French. I'm not talking about the Huguenots. I'm talking about the very first people who arrived with the dromedaries. The Hoe de Hoop, those ships. In April 1652. They arrived as a group of people known as the Kamakwa. Kamakwa is a very simple thing. It means people of the water. Kam is water, like Amakam. Kwa is another way to say kwa or people. So they arrive, they find the Kamakwa or the Kamakwa, the people of the water. That's why today, colored people who are reclaiming their identity, some of them, they use the name Kamisa Africans, because they are descendants of the indigenous populations, the slave populations, the Asian populations, the West African, Central and East African slave populations, and the European populations. But 70% of the DNA is West, Central, East, and Southern Africa. So that's why the Kamisa African thing. Kamisa is simply the funny river, the water, the sweet water. Kamisa. Now, what does Jan van Riebeeck and his people do? Well, they build a fort, a mud fort. That's one of the first things they do. They build a fort which is made out of mud. And then they steal a river. They stole a river. The Kamisa. The river that is for all. The sweet water for all. They stole it. They literally stole it. And then within the first 30 years of the Dutch settlement, they literally wiped out 70% of the indigenous population. They stole it by taking it. That's how they stole it. To steal is to take something that's not yours. It's a very simple thing. When I come into your house and I take your phone, I'm stealing it. That's what stealing is. Textbook definition. They took that river, they redirected the water with channels and canals. They did it with guns, maybe. Come on, guys, we must think for ourselves. Aibo. You take guns, you push the people out, you take the river, you channel it, you redirect the water with canals. It's simple. You stop the water in some parts so that the people can't drink. That's how they steal. That's how they steal land. That's how they steal mountain. They go and shoot the people who stay there. The people take their bags and run. Then they fence it. That's how you steal. No, we can't be asking how they stole. Haibu. You know how they steal. You know very well. You build canals. You redirect the flow of the river. Come to Cape Town, you'll see all the rivers are canalized. They're canalized. Like most of the rivers are canalized. Even the seas. Even the seas, the coastlines have been changed. It's not the same as it was. When Jan van der Beek arrived, Cape Town looked completely different. The seas went deep into the city. What you have as foreshore today, what you have as Paden Island, doesn't look anything like it used to be. There was an actual island, Paden Island. The foreshore did not exist. It was the ocean, all of that. They pushed it back, pushed the ocean back, killed the river of the sea of, what is this? Woodstock Beach. They killed it completely and changed that area into a manufacturing place. Anyway, they stole a river. They pushed out 70% of the population that they found within the first 30 years. In one generation, the Europeans pushed out 70% of the population. Where did the population of Cape Town go? Namibia, Northern Cape, Eastern Cape, some as far as KZN and Limpopo. I repeat, Northern Cape, Namibia, Eastern Cape, some as far as Limpopo and KZN. Running away from the Dutch. That is the first genocide. Remember, the Portuguese had attempted to commit problems, but they were moored under the leadership of de Almeida. They were moored. They were moored by the Korikikwa, pushed back into the sea with cows known as Kaikomako, Amakego. They pushed back because we used to ride cattle, we used to ride cows. We called them Amakego. The Portuguese were literally pushed back and de Almeida was unalived. Here, by Paden Island. Yeah, the Woodstock information is there in the channel. You go to the channel, you look at, there's a video that talks about Cape Flats and AfriForum. And who's that foreigner from the Netherlands? Hendrik Verwoerd. Yeah, that illegal foreigner. No, we used to ride cows, guys. We used to ride cows. Ox packs. We call them ox packs. Kaikomako. Or Amakegu in isiXhosa. We actually used to have races of cows. We call them Amalek and Uqatsu. Now, yes, there are some groups that came from Cape Town to the Eastern Cape. Not just Cape Town, also the Western Cape generally. Now someone was like, why is there no Xhosa presence in Western Cape before 1752? No, it was there. In fact, in the mountains known as Hottentots Holland Mountains, there was a kingdom there, a paramount known as Enukwa. the Qinikwa paramountcy, they were once under a man called Suswa. Suswa was their chief. Suswa was a close ally of the Xhosa kingdom in the Western Cape before Jan van Riebeeck arrived. In fact, when Jan van Riebeeck arrived, in his diary, he records that the Qinikwa told him that the Xhosa people had gold. Not just the Xhosa people, even in Mone Mutapa there was gold. They told Jan van Riebeeck in his diary. Jan van Riebeeck is like, oh, can you show me? He points out his ring. He asked them to show the gold. They see the ring. They're like, yeah, no, these people have the gold. In fact, one of the chiefs of the Qinikwa under Suswa was a man called Kaintina. He was married to a woman who's said to be from the east, who grew up in that kingdom with the gold. So they had a plan to bring the woman to Jan van Riebeeck so that Jan van Riebeeck can actually see the gold. But they fought with the Xhosa who were in the areas of Strand and Somerset West today, and the woman was unalived because of the fight. Jan van Riebeeck didn't get to see the gold. This is what led the second governor of the Cape after Jan van Riebeeck, a man called Simon van der Stel, who was also a mixed-race governor of the Cape. His father was Dutch, his mother was Asian. So if you say colored is mixed race, Simon van der Stel was colored. Interestingly, the name Stellenbosch was inspired by him. It was named in his honor. The place called Simonstown was named in his honor. Simon van der Stel, in the 1680s, he sent a group of Dutch under the ensign Isaac Schrijver to the Eastern Cape to go and find the gold that was spoken about in the time of Jan van Riebeeck. So the nonsense that there were no Xhosa presence or Eastern Cape nations in Western Cape, why did Simon van der Stel send a group with Isaac Schrijver to go and find the gold of the Eastern Cape if the people of the Western Cape didn't know? That's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. The woman called Gorotwas, the one they called Krotowa, that young girl who was the niece, not even a niece actually, she was under the care of Tsamakau or Harry the Strandloper. That young girl, whom the Europeans abused very much and made to give birth to children. That young girl was one of the best translators and interpreters of Dutch in the 1600s. She said it with her own mouth to Jan van Riebeeck that I've seen these people from the east, the people that the Qinikwa are talking about. I've seen them with my own eyes in the vicinity of Paarl and Worcester today. So before Jan van Riebeeck arrived, your so-called Xhosa people were in Worcester and Paarl. They were in Grabo, they were in Bodrivier, they were in Rivier Sonnerend, they were in Breerivier in the Western Cape. It's there in Jan van Riebeeck's dictionary. It's not me, it's the dictionary, it's the diary, sorry. It's there, they recorded it. It's not only the Qinikwa who said it. It's not only the Qinikwa, the Kamakwa said it themselves. The people that the Dutch stole the river from. Harry said it. Gorotwa said it. Whose Gorotwa is the one they call Krotowa. It's there in the diary, guys. Go and read the diary. Stop wanting to be validated by people online. Go and find it for yourself. Go and find the story I'm talking about. Of the Qinikwa chief, Kaintina, under Suswa, who said he was married to these people who have gold. The people who have longer hair. They said it to Jan van Riebeeck. Krotowa corroborated the story. She said, I've seen them. I've seen them around this place known as Worcester and Paarl today. That are built around the Bergrivier. This is in the 1600s. So I don't know why people are saying that, oh, there was no Xhosa presence in the Western Cape. It was there. It's not me who says it. Krotowa says it. Harry the Strandloper says it. Jan van Riebeeck's diary says it. But also our oral history tells us, the descendants of Ugwali, such as Ukhasa, such as Uwabana, these people who were deep in the Western Cape. They were in the areas of even before Beaufort West, in Liu Gamka. What you call Liu Gamka Habana, Kasa, the people of Gwali, the Gwali people, were they in the Western Cape, Baba? They lived in the Western Cape. They lived in the Western Cape. So for me, it's just dumb. That's why I told you before when we were starting this live, that whole concept of homeland is stupidity. There is no homeland. The whole land is our homeland because our ancestors were moving. That's why you have Xhosa people in the Northern Cape, Xhosa people in the northern northwest, Xhosa people in the Free State, Xhosa people in Botswana. That's why you have them there. The Xhosa people in the Northern Cape did not go there to look for jobs. They were there before apartheid even. They were there long ago. They lived with the Kora there. They lived with the Kora. So are you telling me now the Xhosa people in the Northern Cape must come to Eastern Cape and stay here because all Xhosa people must be from Eastern Cape? That is the most stupid thing I've ever heard. It's the dumbest thing. So the whole idea of homeland is an invention of the Cape Colony that is passed down from that to what is this thing? To the British, from the British to the Union of South Africa, from the Union of South Africa to the apartheid South Africa. It's a lie. There is no homeland. It's designed to alienate you from any part that is outside of this so-called homeland. So now, when a Zulu person is in the Eastern Cape, they must feel outside. Oh no, this is not my homeland. Yeah, my homeland is Zululand. It is Zululand is the land of the Zulus, but also elsewhere. Had the Europeans not arrived, I promise you, there are extremely high chances I would have been, and many of us would have been from even born in the Northern Cape. Some of us would have been born deep in the Cape Peninsula, in the Cape of Good Hope. Because we're moving. We are moving to places that make sense for people who had cattle. So between 1652 then, the first 30 years until 1682, 70% of the population in the Cape Colony, the indigenous population, is wiped out. They did the first genocide, but they had been defeated. The Portuguese had been defeated in 1510, remember, in the Battle of Salt River. They were defeated by the Quriqaiqua. When the Quriqaiqua came at them, what is this nonsense? Came at them with cows. Someone is saying, Fadil Adams wants all of you out of the Western Cape. Nah, Fadil Adams, he's an Asian, that one. He can't say nothing about the land of indigenous people. Asian descendant. He has a rightful claim over Cape Town and wherever he's from, because he's a descendant of slaves, you see. So we do have a section of our people that are descendants of slaves. Asian slaves, African slaves. By African, I mean outside of South Africa, and indigenous slaves. In fact, let me take you through the composition of slave descendants. I want to take you through the composition of slave playing politics. But I will explain. The origins of the first generation of enslaved people. There were 50,000 slaves that were African. That is to say, Malagasy. Malagasy is basically West, East, Central African, and Nilotics. 62% of all slaves in the Cape Colony, in the entire time period of the Cape Colony, 62% of all those slaves were African. Yes, the first were from Angola. They were taken from a Portuguese ship in 1658. And they were taken and they arrived in South Africa. Some were taken to Asia, many remained. Those slaves from Angola, many of them became white even. No. The Malagasy slaves here were African. They were not from Madagascar. The ones who were Malagasy in the Cape Colony, go and read the records. They were mostly African slaves. Nilotics, West, Central, and East, even Southern African. Those were people who were black slaves from Ghana, from Nigeria, from Gabon, from Guinea, from Angola, from Congo, from Mozambique, from Zimbabwe, from Malawi. These were slaves from Kenya, from Ethiopia, and from the Nilotic region. They made up 62% of all slaves. So you must understand that majority of slaves were all black Africans. After that, 16,000 of the slaves were, which is 20%, were from South Asia, India, Bengal, Sri Lanka, and then 14,000, which is 17%, were from Southeast Asia, that is to say China, Japan, and the Philippines, from Myanmar, from Siam, from Vietnam, the indigenous people of Malacca, from Indonesia, from Malaysia. That's why you have the name Malau. Malau is the river of Malaysia, the Malayu River. So 62% of the slaves were literally Africans, and 38% were Asians. 62 were African, 38 were Asians. So anyone who descended from slaves, most likely than not, will have a high degree of African DNA, which is not South African. That's going to be Central African, West African, East African. It's very important you understand that. So those slaves did not just disappear. Their descendants are still in South Africa, not just in Cape Town, everywhere. The likes of Fadel Adams are descendants of these slaves. Fadel Adams is a descendant of these slaves. He's a descendant of West Africans, East Africans, Central Africans, South Asians, and Southeast Asians. Now, there was a portion of indigenous South African peoples in their different communities. I'm going to mention Ora. I'm going to mention Uriqikwa. I'm going to mention even some Xhosa. Some Xhosa people were enslaved, like Amantinde. In one of the diaries that I got a hold of, there was a slave that was mentioned there, Ntinde slave. There were indigenous people who were enslaved. They added to the genetic admixture of the slaves. So the slaves were not just 62% other African countries and 38% Asian. When you add the South African indigenous peoples, it could be Korikegwa, it could be Kochokwa, it could be Xhosa, it could be Gunukwa. These people, their DNA plus the West African, Central African, East African made up 70% of the DNA of all descendants of slaves. So the descendants of slaves in South Africa, especially in the Cape Colony, 70% of their DNA is African. That's just the truth. It is African. So when people claim, no, we are African, it's true. I mean, for the most part, they are. They are African, it's true. That's the one thing that cannot be debated. They are African descendants. You see in the comments, someone says, I'm Mpondo descent and Cape Malay mix. It's true. I know people personally, I know people personally. Now, I'm going to read for you. Where did these slaves come from? These slaves were taken as captives of war. These slaves were taken as debt bondage. For example, in places like Indonesia and Bangladesh, if you are in debt, you still have to pay your debt through being a slave. To this day, go to YouTube, slaves who are paying off their debt in Indonesia. It's there. These slaves were kidnapped by pirates. These slaves were bought from markets, in plantations, to work in factories. These slaves were also captured at the sea. And they were also, because of natural disasters, they were vulnerable people, they would be taken as slaves. So in the Cape Colony, the first generations of enslaved people came in the Table Bay around 1658. In the 1650s, remember I mentioned it was a group of slaves from Angola that were captured from the Portuguese by the Dutch. So the Dutch took a ship that had slaves from the Portuguese and they brought it in the Cape. That was the first batch of slaves. Many of those slaves became white. I repeat, many of those slaves became white today. So some whites are descendants of slaves. Not a huge number, a very small portion, but they are there. So they were between 1650 and the 1860s. The VOC, remember the VOC ruled Cape Town, the Cape Colony, between 1652 and 1795. Then the British took over. They took 1795 to 1806. The British were involved. And then from 1806 to 1834, there was also slavery that was happening from the British. Slavery was happening from the British between 1806 to 1834. And then from around 1870, slavery was declared as it's not wrong, it's wrong, it's no longer acceptable, but it was still happening. Anyway, the Kwe, Unukwebe, Kwe, Xhosa, and the Kwi peoples of South Africa. These are the indigenous people that were involved in the Cape Colony, including some Sotho-Tswana Okwa peoples. Okay, yeah, I'm going to use the word enslaved people. I'm not going to say slaves. The enslaved people were Xhosa, like Amantinde, Unukwebe, Unuqwa, other Kwe groups such as Kuriqikwa, Kuriqikona, Okhokwa, and many others. Other Kwi groups such as the Kham, Yosukwini, or Swakwakwi, Sotho-Tswana groups such as Batlaping were also involved in the enslavement. They were enslaved. Batlaping and other groups. These are indigenous people who were enslaved, right? Now, bear with me here. I want to try to go through it by detail. I'm trying to explain the whole thing of Fadiel Adams. You can't chase the indigenous people of this land from any part of this land. When you are their descendant. Fadiel Adams' point of departure is literally apartheid based. No, Cape Town was declared a colored area. This part of Cape Town and that part of Cape Town was declared a colored area by the Dutch, by the Boers, and the Boers can never be wrong. So you must leave because the Boers gave this to me. The Boers had no right to give anything to anyone. They stole everything. For example, the Cape Flats. For the most part, the Cape Flats was never really an area where people lived. People didn't live in the Cape Flats until the Boers pushed people to the Cape Flats. It was a farming area. In fact, in the 1600s, it was a place where people took their cows to eat. It was not a living place. Because in the history of South Africa, the Cape Flats were underwater. Just 5,000 years ago, the Cape Flats were underwater. The sand you see in the Cape Flats is marine sand. It's of marine origin. It comes from... The place was underwater. It was never a place where people lived. So you can't claim Mitchell's Plain. You can't claim Khayelitsha. These are camps. You are in concentration camps when you are in Mitchell's Plain. You are in concentration camps when you are in Khayelitsha. When you are in Kwalanga. Kwalanga was formed right now. People who were taken from... literally taken from Milnerton, taken from Constantia, taken from Sea Point. They were sent to Uitvlucht, a concentration camp in Uitvlucht, in what became Kwandabe. They were taken and pushed there as a concentration camp. So you can't fight over concentration camps. What you need to fight for is what is taken over by Germans right now. Sea Point. You see now, colored people can fight for that because they were pushed out of that. In fact, you see in Bokap, there's a group called Cape Historical Society. There's a gentleman there. He always exposes these things. The first group to be kicked out of Bokap was the black people. The first group to be kicked out of District 6 was the black people. I'm sure in Endemir, in Milnerton, the black people were the first to be pushed. Where are they taken? They're taken to Eindhoven concentration camp. From there, they are pushed to Langa. From Langa, they are pushed to Crossroad, Guguletu. Guguletu is actually Nyanga. You have Nyanga East and Nyanga West. So they are pushed to Nyanga West, Guguletu, Nyanga East, and then they are pushed to Crossroad, and then to Lower Crossroads, and then pushed to Khayelitsha. What do you notice? All these places that they are getting pushed to are further and further from the town. Imagine, they're literally further and further. Khayelitsha is literally at the end of Cape Town, at the outskirts. If you are living in Khayelitsha, you don't even see Cape Town. You don't. You have to travel and go to the other side of the mountain. Same thing happened to people who were pushed from District 6, pushed to Mitchell's Plain, pushed from Muizenberg, and pushed to Retreat, taken from the Cape Peninsula, from Fishhook, pushed to Retreat. You are being pushed further and further. Now it's happening even worse now. It's even worse now because people are being pushed even further to Blue Downs and Blackheath. Oh, there's nothing there. There's nothing in Blackheath. There's nothing in Blue Downs. There's nothing in Electric City. There's nothing in the Lost City where people are being pushed. They are being pushed there. And Europeans are taking over. You go to Sea Point right now. They don't even speak English anymore. They speak Dutch. They speak German. Go to Waterfront. Yeah. Anyway, let me explain the whole thing of the slaves then. So, the Kwe, Kunukwebe, the Xhosa, the Tapping, your Kwi peoples, your Kham, they were enslaved under the Inbuke. It's called Inbuke Link Stelsel. The registered slaves. Inbuke, which means in the book. Stelsel is a system. So they were enslaved under the Inbuke Link Stelsel. The registered slaves. That's what it was called. That's what it was called. That's the indigenous people who were enslaved. They were enslaved and under that system. That is to say, the labor of Xhosa people, the labor of Kuriqekwa, the labor of Amantinde, the labor of Amagunuqwa, the labor of Gunukwebe, the labor of Amasukwini, the labor of the Kham, the labor of the Kung, the labor of the Batlaping was expropriated without compensation. That's it. So, Boers must stop acting as if they don't know expropriation without compensation. They started it when they took the river Kamakwa from the river Kamisa from the Kamakwa people. When they took Nquba River from the Ndlambe, from the Gunukwebe. When they took Kelekwa from the Gunuqwa. Kelekwa is what is called Khamtos. When they took it from the Gunuqwa and they took it from the Imidange. They took everything without compensation. They took the physical bodies of our ancestors without compensation. Seura was not taken with compensation. Sarah Bartman was not compensated. They were all taken without compensation and no apology was ever offered. No acknowledgement was ever offered. You guys forgave, but there was no apology. How do you voluntarily forgive? I come to your house, I break all the windows, I take all the furniture, I rape, I steal, and then you come and apologize. Oh no, I forgive you. I reconcile with you. And every reconciliation day, I go and braai to the people that were doing all the stealing. But whenever you raise that topic, I'm like, oh no, I was not there. But I go and braai to those people every year, worshipping them for unaliving you. These people, the indigenous people, were taken as chattel slaves. It was called chattel slavery. So what that means is that the slaves were not to be paid anything. They had no right whatsoever. They were property of the Dutch, of the English, of the German. These are our ancestors. They were property like a cow and a goat and a pet. That's the truth. In South Africa, the slaves were just property. It's called chattel slavery. They could be traded in markets. Today, if you go in Cape Town, go to Spin Street. Go to Spin Street in Cape Town. Ne? I challenge you to go to Spin Street. There in Spin Street, there's a placard, a remembrance under a tree where they used to sell slaves. It's still there to this day. I'll show you a picture. I took it recently. It's in Spin Street, Cape Town. Just read with me here. On this spot stood the old slave tree. On this spot stood it's in Spin Street, not far from the Iziko Museum. It's actually just next to the Iziko Museum, opposite McDonald's and KFC. That's where the slaves used to be sold, under that tree. So when you talk about slavery, you're not talking about something in the remote past. You talk about something that there are still artifacts to this day. Just like there are still apartheid artifacts to this day that you can find. There are still slave artifacts to this day that you can find where slaves were sold. Let's continue to learn about slavery. So that the whole thing of Fadela Dams pushing people out, you need to understand that you can't push people out that you come from. You can't. So what you do have is that you had chattel slaves, the indigenous people. You also had prize slaves. Prize slaves are people who were generally captured and taken from maybe captured from the Dutch in the sea. They would be taken over to the Cape Colony, and then they would be freed maybe after 10 years, after 20 years, after 30 years. These were prize slaves. We had prize slaves as well. Some were from Ethiopia, the Oromo especially. Some were taken on the seas of, the seas of Yemen. So in around 1836, the Boer Republic slavery ended only in 1887. Remember, the English pushed slavery to end in the 1830s, but then it ended mostly in the 1860s. The Dutch were like, we're not going to end slavery. This is where you get the voortrekkers. The voortrekkers were very unhappy with this suggestion that they should not have slaves now. That's why they tracked. They didn't track because they were the chosen people. They couldn't even find anything to eat in 1652 when they came here. They were eating dolphins and sharks. They needed the kurikhaikwa. The kurikhaikwa. They needed the kurikhaikona to give them food. They were not being the chosen people. They were hungry and dying of disease. This whole nonsense of chosen people is a new thing from their Calvinist, white supremacist theology, which is really just a system of oppression, tantamount to the Jews being chosen people, tantamount to all systems of white supremacy, fascism, and Nazism. All systems of white supremacy, they border on one idea. We are the chosen ones, and you must accept whatever we do to you. We unalive you, accept it. We grape you, accept it. We steal from you, accept it. It's right, it's holy because we're the ones doing it. So the Dutch, when they were leaving the Cape Colony, they were unhappy because they had to relinquish their slaves. So they were like, no, we're going to go and establish new republics, the Boer republics. They go to what is called Gauteng, the traditional home of your Kuke, of your Sotho-Tswana peoples. That's where Tswana Tsatsi is. Gauteng, on the eastern side, towards Mpumalanga. They go there. Now they're lying. They say they didn't find anyone. There was no one in Gauteng. There was everyone, everywhere. There's not even a piece where there was no one. There was people every single place. I can promise you that. The Portuguese wrote about it. They wrote about it. Now, They went and established their Boer republics, and they continued slavery in their Boer republics. Now, as the slavery is losing power, they needed to find new ways to get slaves. New ways to get slaves. And one of the ways to get slaves was what? Indentured servitude. But before they moved, there was something called the frontiers, where the Dutch were wreaking havoc to the frontier societies, especially the Xhosa. This is where you get the 100-year wars of the Xhosa, the 10 wars, because they are trying to defend the frontier. What is the frontier? Frontier is basically the creeping of the Dutch to the whole of South Africa. So they are creeping into the territory of South Africa. The Xhosa have to fight back. It took 100 years to break the Xhosa's military. They broke the Xhosa after 100 years. After many failed attempts. On the other hand, they are breaking the Zulu, and then they are breaking the Sotho-Tswana communities. And a lot of the times they are working with locals, collaborators. They worked with collaborators, sellouts, who sell our people for a living. That's why even to this day you hear them, the collaborators. They are not new, guys. This land, the Dutch did not conquer this land because they were smart. They worked with natives, collaborators, from Cape Town to Limpopo. Collaborators were always there. It was not just now in the apartheid time, impi. They were there way before. You think Jan van Riebeeck was unaliving the Kurikheikwa alone? There were indigenous descendants there. Agree, they went and impregnated our women. The children were being used to unalive the indigenous people, the children of Europeans, with our women. Same thing with our so-called tribes. They would go to one chief, like, let's fight against this one. They will fight and unalive that chief, and then the Dutch come and take this chief's properties. So they did that over time. Over time. Then they realized, okay, now we can't have slaves. We need something different. That's when the English brought over indentured servants. A lot of them were from India. But remember, the first batch of Indians had already arrived. Indians with the Moors and the Maroons. 300 years before. And those ones had become totally native. Okay, not native, but they were basically absorbed. They were absorbed. The Indians who had been part of the shipwreck of the Portuguese in the 1500s were absorbed. And yes, the Dutch, every time you collaborated with the Dutch, immediately after the collaboration is done, when they get what they want, they come and unalive you and betray you. They did it a lot of the times to so-called colored people, to so-called black people. They would create buffer zones, new towns. Buffer zone, new towns, and put people that they've trained, they've poisoned already, put them in those towns. Those people will be used against the natives of those towns. After that, they leave those people there. So in 1836, the Voortrekkers left. They went on the Great Trek, and obviously so that they could continue their slavery. And then once the Boer Voortrekkers arrived, they established the Vrystaat, the Free State, and the Transvaal South African Republic. They went on to do slave raids. They slave raided and introduced chattel slavery in the new states now. Remember, chattel slavery was a thing of Cape Town. The Boer republics that were formed, Vrystaat and the Transvaal South African Republic, they started doing slavery once again in Gauteng and in Free State. They did it for almost 50 years, 2 generations, and being enslaved. So do you understand, guys, that today in 2025, you are a descendant of people who've been broken over 6 or even 8 generations? Don't think that our parents are sober. Don't think our people are sober. They are not sober. When our people are like, oh no, Groenewald, yes, Groenewald for president, they mean it. They're not joking. They're not sober. These are people who are descendants of 6 generations of slaves. 6 generations. After 6 generations, even the genetics have been changed by then, have been affected. You have a white worshipping gene inside of you. You can't help it. After 6 generations of oppression, you can't help it, Baba. You can't help it. You must feel the rage. You must feel the rage because that's the only thing that's gonna make sense. The rage. But let's go further. In the Boer republics, ne, slavery, basically there was at least 30,000 slaves. So these were the final slaves in the Boer Republic, bringing the total number over 235 years. 235 years is literally 10 generations of slaves. Remember, 100 years is 4 generations. 200 years is 8 generations. 25 years is 1 generation. 10 years is into another generation. So we had 10 generations of slavery in South Africa. 10 generations of slavery. 10 generations of slavery took place here in South Africa, and no one has paid for that. After that 10 generations of slavery, our ancestors don't get a break. They move from that 10 generations of slavery, they go into labor, cheap labor. So the descendants of these slaves over 10 generations who have been completely mentally shattered, mentally fragmented, mentally destroyed, they become now cheap labor. And further fragmentation of the mind, further fragmentation of the indigenous essence. So indentured labor systems, they coerced labor, and many features of slavery began to replace the slavery system. So slavery continued in the form of cheap labor and wine farms. To this day, in some wine farms, there are still practices of slavery right now in 2026. In 2026. During the Anglo-Boer War, there were many black people who were there fighting for the Boers. They were owned by the Boers. In fact, there's a group of black people known as the Black Afrikaners. Go and look them up. The Black Afrikaners were African slaves of the Dutch during the Anglo-Boer War and during the Voortrekker thing. They are called the Black Afrikaners. They were slaves. They still speak Afrikaans to this day. Yes, in the Anglo-Boer War, they were slaves. Absolutely. The largest number of the indentured laborers after the slavery, you had indentured laborers. The largest number of those laborers were Indian. They came from India. 160,000 Indians came to South Africa. 160,000 came to South Africa. And 105,000 Chinese. But also there was about 45,000 from Namibia, from Malawi, from Zanzibar, from Mozambique, and from Namibia. So from the slavery that happened across 10 generations, there was an extra 500 and 300,000 people who were indentured laborers that were added from the slaves that had been enslaved for 10 generations. There was a new now group of people that were brought over. About 300,000, more than 300,000 from India and China and Africa. They were added as indentured laborers. Indentured laborers. So now, after 1911, the indentured labor system was succeeded by the migrant labor. This is where now you have shosholoza, kulezondaba, stimela, spume Rhodesia. The train from Rhodesia. It's coming, it's bringing what? Immigrants. The train is bringing immigrants. They are here to replace who? The indentured laborers. The Indians and the Chinese and the Zanzibaris. The immigrants are coming now to replace them. The apartheid government, now the government realized that, these immigrants are not enough, man. We need the natives to work. But you need to remove the natives from being natives in the first place. Make them migrants. So create homelands. Those homelands will operate as a catalyst. Those homelands operated as a catalyst of alienating the native people and making them non-citizens. Do you understand that when the homelands were being created, they were being created with the purpose of making you no longer a citizen. So you were a migrant now in your own land. And this is how migrant labor began. So around 1910, when the Union of South Africa was formed, around 400,000 of descendants of African, Asian, enslaved and indentured people, these were colored now. By 1910, there was 400,000 colored people. Who are they? Remember, I gave you a history of all the slaves. These are the people who had been enslaved over generations. Xhosa, Batlaping, Gunukwebe, Tram, all these people, and the 300,000 slaves. So around 1910, in the Union of South Africa, there were 400,000 descendants of these slaves. 400,000 descendants of these slaves. And there were 87,000 Damara, Nama, Ora, Chirikwana, who were still distinctly those groups. They were still distinctly Ora, distinctly Nama in South Africa. They were still distinctly Chirikwana, about 87,000. And you had 4,000 distinctly Kwi and Jew and Kha peoples. When I say distinctly, I'm saying they don't belong in any nation like Zulu or Sotho or Tswana. These ones were those who were like just living in the distinct indigenous life without being in any swearing allegiance to any king. So you had about 4,000 Kwi, 87 to 90,000 Kwemana speakers, Kwe-Goab speakers, and 400,000 slave descendants. You know what happened? All these people, the descendants of slaves, 400,000, plus your Kora, your Kwe, who are 87,000, plus your Kwi. So 10%, 1% of these people were Kwi, so-called San. That's 1%. I would say maybe 10%, 15% were Kwemana speakers, and 80% were slave descendants. But remember, the slave descendants are still 70% African DNA. This group became what we call coloreds today. They were all put together and became what we call colored today. Some are as dark as they come, some are as light as they come. But the truth is in the DNA. 70% of the DNA says African. But by 1910, the statistics are there. Of that group of 1910, 400,000 were slave descendants, 87,000 were Kwemana speakers, 4,000 were Kwi speakers. That is to say, so-called Bushmen, 4,000. So-called Hottentot, 87,000. And then slave descendants, 400,000. So, by virtue of that, there was even further intermixing with mixed race people who were called mixed other by the Europeans. They called mixed race people the mixed other. So people who were mixed between different ethnicities, they were called mixed other. This thing was messed even further now by the apartheid government when they came with a pencil test. If your hair was in a particular way, you would become you become colored by force or white and all that. So it messed up the whole thing. I'm trying to explain, therefore, the idea that Fadil Adams can chase people, indigenous people, out of their land. It's not possible. But however, what we can say is that in specific communities, if let's say we're talking about Mitchell's Plain, if the people of Mitchell's Plain are not getting jobs in Mitchell's Plain, people from other places are getting jobs before the people of Mitchell's Plain, it makes every sense for the people of Mitchell's Plain to be angry, because why are they not getting jobs in their own city, in their own town? That is not tantamount to chasing people away. That is people just looking out for themselves in their own town. Same thing, people of Khayelitsha, you can't get people from a different town. You put them in Khayelitsha to work when the people of Khayelitsha are not working. So that argument for me makes sense, The locals in their area must be preferred in their area. But in the province itself, the indigenous people had always been indigenous. There are no people from Eastern Cape here. That's complete hogwash. People were pushed to Eastern Cape. They are not from Eastern Cape. They are from everywhere in this land. So that one is nonsense. You can't push people to the Eastern because they are from the Eastern Cape. They were pushed bloody there. So what you have then, after the indentured slaves, indentured servants, you have migrant labor. Migrant labor is the one that takes people from their homes, brings them to hostels, and they start working. This is where now black people are pushed into reserves called Bantustans. They are pushed into Bantu education. It's a mess. There's no roads. There are no toilets. There's no electricity. But today, those same black people are going to come and say, apartheid was better. Yo, apartheid was nice, guys. It was the best. And that's why they call you kafir, because you don't want to think with your head. You were literally a foreigner in South Africa during apartheid. And you're telling me it was nice. You might as well pack your bags and go to the Congo then. Maybe you really are from there, based on your reasoning. So, what you have here is that the truth is that the infrastructure of South Africa was built on slavery. South Africa was not built by white people. It was built by slaves, indigenous and African and Asian slaves, for more than 230 years. Do you understand? For 10 generations, our people slaved away, enslaved people built this bloody country. And they didn't build where they were staying. They built where Europeans were staying. They built Hout Bay. They built Constantia. They built the Boer republics. They built the Cape Colony. They built the Northern Cape. They built the Eastern Cape. The slaves. Who do you think built Hout Bay? You think it's Europeans? It was built literally by slaves. Who do you think built the Cape of Good Hope, the Castle of Good Hope? It was slaves. For 235 years, our people were enslaved. That is 10 generations. After that, another generation of migrant and indentured servants. After that, our people were treated as migrants in their own country. In their own country, they're treated as immigrants because they were pushed out, and then they created, the Dutch created, what is this, Bantustans, and then they were like, oh, you are citizens of the Bantustans. You are a citizen of the Bantustan, so when you come to South Africa, you must produce a dompas. Imagine, in your own ancestors' land, you have to produce a dompas. To this day, many black people inherited that self-hate and white supremacy. So, majority of black people, I can say, are white supremacists. And that's why they understand the language of white supremacy more than the language of self-help and self-determination. Most black people seem to be white supremacists to me. That's why they will always side with a white supremacist, Groenewald. So you vote for him knowing very well what he's going to do to you. But you like what he's going to do to you because you believe that is your designated place. By nature, you should be a slave. By nature, you should be a slave. You believe in that. So don't hide it under the disguise that apartheid was bad. You did not even exist in apartheid. You were just labor. You were labor. So the nonsensical claims by the likes of Ike Kumalo, apartheid was bad. You were literally servants. But there's two things you can do in the face of white supremacy. You can face it head on, deal with it and be hated, or you can just accept it and internalize it and become a white supremacist who perpetuates self-hate. And unfortunately, it seems a lot of South Africans have taken the latter. It seems a lot of South Africans are white supremacists themselves. So when you deal with so-called black and colored and Indian white supremacists, when you deal with them, you must deal with them the same way you would handle a white European Caucasoid Nazi. Black, colored, and Indian South Africans are Nazis. They are fascists. They are self-hating white supremacists who perpetuate white supremacy every chance they get. Nazog. So next time when you argue with these people, don't think you're arguing with your fellow black person. That's not your fellow black person. That's a body that has been occupied by a very dangerous parasite. You are dealing with a parasite now. You're not dealing with your fellow. That's not your fellow. They will sell you out any chance they get. Many of them are in parliament today. They're in office today. You thought they were gonna come and save the day. No! They were white supremacists to begin with. And many black people worshipping Mutsipe. Mutsipe, the richest black man. Keep on falling for the same stupidity. Keep on falling for the same stupidity. Over and over and over and over again. You solve this by firstly rejecting the very basis of the system. Reject the whole nonsense. I've always said it. You can't use Marxism. You can't use Leninism. You can't use capitalism. You can't use socialism. You can't use any ism and schism that came from outside of our people to solve the problems of our people, because the problems of our people came with capitalism. They came with socialism. They came with Leninism. They came with Marxism. You think when Karl Marx was busy designing whatever nonsensical philosophies he has, you think he was thinking about you? In his mind, you're probably just a slave or a monkey. He was a bloody juice. So, my people, I just wanted to explain that the infrastructure of South Africa was built through slavery. It was not built by whites or anything like that. It was built by slaves. That's literally what happened. The Dutch expropriated land using three systems. They used three systems: the Weidrechten, the Leninplatz, and the Commando. The Weidrechten are what you would call grazing rights. It's what you would call grazing rights. It was a system where they would lease land to you. Leninplatz is what you would call loan farm. Loan farm. That is the second system the Dutch used. The third system was the commando, where they would form bands of criminals to go and raid. So I created a bit of a presentation. Go and learn more about these ideas. Go and learn more about these concepts. This is how the Dutch took your land. They started with something called the Weidrechten. It was a Dutch system of grazing rights. It started in the Netherlands. Guys, in the Netherlands, Wederrechten are traditional grazing rights, legally recognized rights. This is what they used to give each other our land. You could go and learn how it started in the Cape Colony. The land was already used under indigenous systems of communal and seasonal grazing. The VOC insisted that all land ultimately belonged to the company. It's the VOC that said that through Wederrechten. And then this was a form of expropriation. After that, they used Leninplatz, which means loan farms. It was a form of land tenure used by the VOC from roughly 1714 onwards in the Cape Frontier regions, instead of a freehold title. A burger, which means a townsman, received a large farm on loan, theoretically revocable and subject to an annual rental, often paid in produce or cash. So the VOC took the land, gave it to Europeans through Wederrechten, grazing rights, and through Leninplatz, which is loan. And then the third one was a system known as commandos. I want to see if it touched on this. This was the commando. The commando was an expropriation system. It was a militia system originating in the Dutch Cape Colony in the late 17th and early 18th centuries. It forced able-bodied, or it meant that able-bodied burghers were organized into district-based mounted units called out when needed. So they had militias who had guns, who were training. The same thing they're doing today, they did it 400 years ago. Able-bodied burghers were organized into district-based mounted units, called out when needed. Under Dutch and later British rule, commandos were used in frontier conflicts for punitive expeditions against Kwe, San, Xhosa, for tracking runaway slaves, and for defense in wars which they started. So these are the three layers of the land expropriation that was done by the Dutch. Today, you know it. If you didn't know, now you know. They took the land using grazing rights, using loan farms, and using militias. So what that means is that it was not an effort only by the VOC, as many will tell you today. No, it was the VOC. It was not us. It was every one of them. Who do you think was in the militia, in the commando? It was the normal people, the normal everyday people. The same ones who are today in Orania. The same ones who are today in Kleinfontein. The same ones who are today in Pretoria, in Kimberley. Who are today organizing, preparing for war that black people have no idea and have no interest in even knowing about. Black people are very happy just dancing and singing and drinking alcohol every week. Hamba wen, hamba ha, hamba wen, hamba. That's all black people want to do. Sing and dance every day. Here's there, literally, this is how they did it. They never bought the land. They didn't even believe we were human in the first place. They said we were animals. Why would they buy land from a dog? They didn't even think we had capacity. This is the thing, guys, people don't understand. In law, there's something called proxy and capacity. There's proxy and capacity. A 12-year-old child cannot think for themselves. A 12-year-old child cannot decide for themselves. They do not have the proxy. They are not in capacity to make decisions in the court of law. That's why if you make a child to do something, you are the one who's wrong as an adult. I'm talking about a 12-year-old child. Do you remember that in apartheid, they told you that a black man who has grown is equivalent to a 12-year-old white boy. So as a black man, in the mind of a white supremacist, you are a perpetual child. You are a perpetual adolescent who can't take decisions. That's why even when the president is black, they can't take it seriously because it's just a 12-year-old boy to them. I repeat, even when the president is black, they are unable to listen to you. I don't care how good you can be, how loved you can be. Deep down, these white supremacists have no interest in hearing what you have to say because to them, you are just a subhuman creature. Oh no, I like pasta and lobster. Pasta and lobster don't like you. You're just a bobo-chan to them, a monkey. So today, you know how the land was taken? What are you going to do about it? Remember, it's three methodologies they used. Wederrechten, Leerlingplatz, and commandos. And I'm saying to you, commandos are acting right now. Commandos are literally preparing for war right now. You're busy. Yo, we know we've gotten our freedom. We are free now. We are free. It's a free country. Kilimanjaro, free country, Baba. Free country. When the average wealth of a black South African is only 5% of that of a white South African. The average white family is 5 times wealthier than the average black family. The average black people will die having never been able to board a plane in their entire lives. They will literally die having never been inside an aeroplane, been inside an airport. That majority of the people will never be in an aeroplane in their lifetime. But you are free. Kilimanjaro, we are free, guys. Like little monkeys. They think men from the mountains are boys. They think men from the mountains are boys. Remember, they say a grown-up old men like Mandela. Do you know why they gave the prisoners shots in the prison? Because they were just boys. They don't care if you've gone to the mountain for 12 months or 2 months. To them, it means nothing. These people don't operate like that. They don't have a ceremonial sanctity in their mind. They don't have a mind of. They don't understand sanctuary, holy places. They don't understand that. They gave these Mandelas and the other guys in prison shots because they were like, no, these are boys. They can just wear shorts. Only the men can wear trousers. Give them shots, these boys. 12-year-old boys. They called our fathers boys. They called our mothers girls. Uchundlos. My mother was a kitchen girl. My father was a garden boy. Black people sing. They say that. They accept that their parents were girls and boys. How can an old man be a garden boy? It's even gotten so bad that the boy is in the surnames of some people. Swart boy. Vet boy. Geel boy. But we are free after all. Hey, we are free, guys. In our RTP houses, social grants. Oh my goodness. It's so sad, man. It is so sad. No DNA, Baba. Just just RSA. In a white supremacist society, a black man is a 12-year-old boy. That's a fact. In a white supremacist society, a black person is 60% human. They had scientists, make that into the official science. They literally had scientists make that into the official science. However, they know you're strong, so you must do all the work. You must do all the work. You're just a monkey. You're here to work, Baba. Just here to work. Like a donkey, 3/5 of a human being. You're here to work and raise their children. Those children are going to spit on you. Immediately they grow. Once the children are older than 12, remember, a black man is only 12 years. Only equivalent to a 12-year-old child. Once that boy is 13, he's even older than you. But hey, we are free, aren't it? We are all free, guys. We're all one. Oh, rugby unites us. The fans don't even want those bloody black players you busy putting there. They see them as token players. But rugby unites us, guys. It's rugby. It's rugby. They don't even like Bavuma in cricket. It's always this Xhosa man. It's always Abantakwethu. Bavuma. Hey, in cricket. I used to play cricket as well. I used to play cricket. White man sport, Baba. Herschel Gibbs. Jacques Callis. Dale Steyn. But we are free, guys. It's freedom. We are born free. No, you're not born free. You're literally born into 12 generations of slaves, 8 generations of servants. That's what you're born into. You are born into 12 generations of slaves and 8 generations of servants. You are 20 generations oppressed. So what freedom is this that you're talking about? Now, the best races are in this high society, in the sports, rugby. Go to the rugby thing. They hate your presence there. But I know we are one, guys. South Africa is a nice country. It's the best country in the world. No DNA. Just RSA. As long as you're going to go back to Kailija, it's fine. No DNA, just RSA. As long as you're going to go back to Nyanga, you're not going to disturb us in Sunset Village. In Santutno. As long as you're not gonna disturb us. You go to the beach in December, they hate you there. They hate you there in the beach. Oh my goodness, the Black Plague is here. Oh, they're taking their yearly baths. Oh my goodness, the beach is gonna be so dirty. But no DNA, just RSA, guys. Just RSA. Just focus on the positive, okay? No DNA, just you're not wanted in your own country. Imagine in your own country, and then they have the temerity to go and bloody claim that they are genocided. When the genocide has been happening here from 1652 until 1994, there's been a genocide. Heck, dare I say that even from 1994 to 2026, there's a genocide on our people. But it's changed its face now. Now we are dealing with the sickness now. Undo. We are dealing with the sickness now. If you are sick in the head, you're not going to do well in this life. You're going to lose your mind. You're not going to sleep tonight. You're going to have nightmares, Baba. Yo. And then you've got these products of Bantu education in power. White worshipping, weak, broken men and women whose sole purpose is to seek white validation. Mkhumbuzo Chaveni goes and brags to Julius Malema that Elon Musk is my friend. I'm like, can you see yourself though? Are you looking at yourself, Mkhumbuzo Chaveni? Are you an idiot, Mkhumbuzo? This guy is a technocratic white supremacist with a history that links back to the Nazis. You think he's your friend? Oh, goodness gracious. And these people are supposed to be in government. I listened to that. Who's this guy that Rupert was tapping him? Look at you now. When they were in the White House. Who's this young guy, man? This young guy that Ramaphosa is grooming. The one that Rupert was tapping on the back. Look at you now. Please, guys. Ronald Lamula, yes. I listened to Ronald Lamula there on the podcast, Meg G. He's saying a whole lot of nothing. Ronald Lamula can't even get himself to have an opinion. They're so weak. They can't even have opinions. They have an agenda. They just need to push it. They are so weak. And these people are supposed to be leaders. They're supposed to represent the indigenous people. I'm not even sure if they're indigenous at this point. I'm not even sure if they were indigenous at this point. There's a person there in the comment. If so, if you think if we were not colonized, no one would be living in Kailija. No one would be living in Kailija. There was no Kailija. Remember, Kailija is a project of apartheid. Kailija, Langa, Gugulet, all those things were built by apartheid. No one would be living there. I can promise you that. Why would anyone live in Kailija? It's nothing. There's nothing in Kailija. Our lifestyle, there's no river in Kailija. We live next to rivers. There's no mountain in Kailija. We live next to mountains. We live where there's rivers and mountains and whirlpools and lakes and estuaries. Why would anyone want to live in Kailija? There's nothing there. It's a bloody concentration camp. And this is why barcode. This is why it's important to know. Because when you speak from a place of absolute ignorance, you make yourself sound like a 3-year-old child in front of everyone. You come across like a 3-year-old now in a discussion of adults. Because if you knew how indigenous people lived, you wouldn't even dare to ask the question. Before colonization, people were literally living in all the suburbs that you see today. Hout Bay, Cape Town, the Cape Town that you see today. Do you know why it became Cape Town? Because there were already people living in there. Milnerton, there were already people living in there. Saldanha, there were already people living in there. Rondebosch, there were already people living in there. Constantia, Fishhoek, Muizenberg, there were already people living in those places. That's why they became towns. Do you know why there was no one in Kailija? Because 5,000 years ago, Kailija was literally covered in water. That's why there's marine sand in that bloody place. It was literally covered in water. It was covered in water. Who would live there in that bloody place? It's nothing, it's dry, no trees grow there. So no, if there was no colonization, nobody would be living in Khayelitsha. It would not be a suburb. No, because in our culture, we don't live in places with no water. We live next to rivers. Once again, the very idea of suburb, you can't think about it from a European perspective. You need to think about it from an indigenous perspective. Indigenous people live next to rivers. They've always lived next to rivers for thousands of years. Why would they change now and live in Khayelitsha where there's no river? There's not even one river in Khayelitsha. So you've got these foolish politicians now. Like, oh no, Elon Musk is my friend. That's Kumbuzo Chabeni, by the way. And I'm looking at this woman, I'm like, are you well, lady? Does Elon Musk know that you guys are friends? And that's when I realized that, no, man, the people who are actually running the country, the people who are running the country are actually those students who used to fail at school. I'm sorry, there's no other way about it. The people who are running the country are the dumb students. It's literally the dumb kids. That's it. I'm sorry, there's no other way. Nah, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There's no way intelligent individuals who can do this to a country. Do you know what Singapore has done in 40 years? They've multiplied their economy 400 times. No, 200 times, sorry. China lifted 400 million people out of poverty. No, 800 million people out of poverty. 800 million people. 800 million. The Temu Khoisans are going to be recognized by the government. The Temu Khoisans are going to be recognized. They're going to be allowed. They're going to be First Nation, because it's a Temu government. Remember, the government is not they are Timu. All of them are Timu. Timu Khoisan, Timu government. It's all the same. However, I'm forming an organization known as the Foundational Peoples of Southern Africa. You guys must go on, follow that organization. Greetings. You must go on the Foundational Peoples of Southern Africa. We must put the government in court now. The government, we must make it so hard for them, because the government is a Timu government. It's a fake government together with the fake Khoisans. One of these fake Khoisans, by the way, went to Israel recently. This guy, this fake king, I'm going to show you just now. This guy is literally a British descendant. Literally. You know, there are genuine Kora chiefs, both Xhosa speaking and African speaking. This one is literally a Thomas. He descends from the British. He may have 1% Xhosa or something, but he's a British, this one. Guys, come on, man. He calls himself Wayne Khami Thomas. But he's a British descendant. That's the truth. He has nothing to do with indigenous people. He calls himself the Khoi King. And he went there to Israel to support Israel. I think he once made, I'm not sure if it's him.
It was uphill. Well, it's a city of hills. That's the problem with Jerusalem. You get your exercise here.
You get your exercise, you get some strong legs. And,
yes.
It's such a pleasure walking through the city. So much.
See, look, indigenous Khoi. This is not an indigenous person. I'm sorry. He is a European. And there's many of them, eh? There's absolutely many of them. This one is a Thomas. Anyone who knows the history of the Thomases, they are literally British. Majority of these people, man, who are claiming stuff, the crazy thing is that the ANC government is working with them to give them, credibility. So the ANC's government is also to blame for these people. They are a project of the ANC government as well. And tell you what, they are being funded by Israel now. They are going to Israel now. Huh? ANC government is supporting this nonsense. Look at this. Look at this. Indigenous Embassy, Jerusalem. My people, please ignore barcode. He's one of those, one of those who want attention. Just ignore him. You will see he's gonna be embarrassed and go and try find attention elsewhere. Ask your parents for some love, man. Hey, don't waste our time here. If your parents didn't give you love, we're not gonna give you that love. I'm sorry, I don't have love for you, barcode. I don't even know who you are. You may even be a Caucasoid. You may be a Caucasoid. Look at this. They've got this indigenous embassy, Jerusalem. South Africa doesn't even have an indigenous embassy. But they're going around challenging Israel. They're so dumb, these people. They're so stupid. South African government, I get. And then look at this one. Look at this nonsense. Guys. Anyway, today's live, I wanted to just, get into what built South Africa, What really built South Africa is not Europeans, it's slaves. It's the indigenous people. Remember now, these are the things you must know so that next time the Europeans are lying to you, we built this country. We built this country. They didn't build shit. I'm going live tomorrow, guys. Tomorrow, we are talking about how to move forward. It's late now for me. It's late. If you need those books, you inbox me. If you need to watch this live again from scratch, you go to my YouTube channel.
Peace family, this is Sunny Luamax.
My YouTube channel is here.
I'd like to welcome each and every one of you beautiful people.
It's Sandy Letugani
that we're building here, coming all the way from
Just subscribe.
South Africa. And
you come here to videos. All the videos are here. I'm gonna upload this one even today. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you. Bye bye.